everything stated in this video is my opinion and my opinion only. And just like everything else in these cases we discuss here on this channel, everything is alleged.
Hey guys, how are y'all doing tonight? We're going to be going over this interview that we've been wanting to go over here for a while. And I'm going to tell you now, I took it, recorded the entire thing. I didn't edit anything. The only thing that I did was start it where she brings him up and starts talking to him. I flipped them around and threw a filter over it so that they couldn't tell me crap about using the entire interview. And yeah, I didn't take out any of the oohs and the ums or anything like that. So we're going to go over it in its entirety. In a second here, whenever I have to remove my headphones from where they are to put them on my head, I might have to unplug and replug in my microphone because it's actually two different things. I just realized that the cords are quite tangled together for some reason. So we're going to fix that here in just a second. Okay, drop a 1 in the chat if you have already seen the interview, not the one that Steve Goncalves did on News Nation. I did just like a review video on its own on that one, but the one that he did over on her personal channel. Drop a 1 in the chat if you've already watched this, because that's the one it is. It's the one from back then, because he did this before, and I'm painting my nails while we're doing this, by the way. He did this before the Dateline thing, but damn if he didn't say so many things. So I wanted to go back over it. This is the thing. I don't really know what to really take when it comes to the way that Steve is acting. And I know that a lot of people, it's really hard for people to meet in the gray area, which I can understand that too, I guess, to a certain extent. A lot of people want to just want to hate him, I guess, the way that Christy says. I mean, you can't really blame a lot of people for that with the way that he comes out here and behaves. But then just over the past couple of interviews, I really am just sort of wondering, is he having some sort of a mental block situation to where he just can't get past what he was previously told, and because he's not getting any new information, he's just letting all of that old information that's really no longer relevant fester and bubble and technically just mutate into its own monster, and he's kind of letting it take over. That's why I feel like this interview is really important, because there's a lot of clues to that in this, where he literally says it's the state's fault that he's out here saying what he's saying because they're not telling him things to say. It's just a lot. There's a lot in this, and I really, really want to go through it and just pay attention to what he says, because like I said, there's just a lot of things that really just grabbed my attention. And now that we've seen the Dateline episode, almost everything that Steve had said in these 4 interviews on Drunk Turkey, the 2 that he did with Ashleigh, one on her channel, one on News Nation, and then with Christy over on the Interview Room, it's like a prequel tour. It's weird. So we're going to go through and we're going to listen to this. I don't know, a week and a half ago, I guess. Week and a half or so ago. It's on Ashleigh Banfield's, is it Drop Dead Serious, I think is what she calls it. It's over there. And it's interesting. And I'll tell you now. Okay. She starts off asking him the exact same question that she asks in the News Nation one. So she starts off the News Nation one saying about how when these new documents and this new information comes out, she always thinks about the families and how they get the information. She's asking, is there someone that goes through this stuff with you? Do you get a heads up? Blah, blah, blah. It's the exact same thing. The exact same thing. So Steve is having to sit here and pretend like he didn't just answer all of these exact same questions, but you can see that it's acting. That's another reason why I wanted to go through this, because he literally did these interviews back to back, and he's having to go in and roll his eyes and sigh and take deep breaths, like he's just for the first time hearing the questions and just for the first time giving a reactive answer. And it's just really odd. It's just odd. So we're going to watch it. Okay, I'm going to attempt to take my headphones off of here. And if my microphone cuts out for a second, then I will fix it in just a minute. I don't know why I didn't look at this before I did this. Let me just turn my stuff off here for a second. Give me a second. Okay. I fixed it. It did get tangled and it did come out. Y'all can hear me okay, right? Everything should be fine. Okay. Let me pull this up. Now again, and for anyone who doesn't believe me, you can go back and watch the entire thing all over again and play it verbatim the exact same way that I'm about to play it here. Because all I did was, like I said, I recorded it, I flipped it, I threw a filter thingy-mabobber on it, and I sped it up to 1.1. That's all that I did for it. So let me pull this up here. And then fix this to where y'all can see it better. Now, one of the main things that I want you guys to listen to in this too is the way that he completely skates over his responsibility when it comes to the whole door being closed for Xana's room situation, when it comes to the 911 call, the story they apparently got told from Hunter and all the things. I really do feel like I don't know. I almost feel like Hunter is really just kind of getting the brunt end of a lot of things. Like, I know there's a lot of people that have a lot of questions about why he like grabbed a knife in the kitchen. I'll probably make a video addressing it because I've had a lot of people mentioning it and bringing it up. But to me, it just sounds like he was the only one really listening. Everyone else was like focused on this weird alcohol story that kind of didn't take precedent to some rando apparently being in your house. But that's like the only portion that maybe he really tuned into. And he's like, what did you just say? A person in the freaking house? And to me, he just like maybe reacted normally. But when it comes to the door being closed thing, Steve doesn't take responsibility for being the one that came out and started it. He doesn't take responsibility for anything. He doesn't even address it. He literally very masterfully switches it to the doors on the outside of the house being open instead. I don't know how. I mean, we're going to see how, but it was just flawless. And she never tried to like get him to go back to it. I don't know if she would be willing to ask different questions, but I mean, and that's another thing. I saw somebody say something in the past. Maybe it's because it's a different audience. No, everybody who's watching News Nation is watching her personal channel. If you don't know Ashleigh Banfield from News Nation, you don't know about her personal channel most likely because she's big on cable. So I feel like it's all the exact same audience. That's why it's just so weird that they went through the exact same questions. And the only thing that changed was her shirt, her hair's up, and he took his glasses off. That's pretty much it. Okay, so we're going to start this right now. And before I get started, thank you so much, Dee Dobson, for joining as a member. Let's go ahead and get started. This is commentary, so I'm going to let a few seconds play. Whenever I want to say something, I'm going to stop. I'm going to say something. I'm not going to try to nitpick as much. I'm just going to try to point out the stuff that's really important because everyone acts like I'm just so harsh. But look, there's something very specific in here that Steve says. It's going to be really difficult for me not to stop and make a comment on it. So I'm going to have to make a comment on it. I'm just going to make it really brief. I'm not going to just like dwell on certain things that maybe I'm taking a little bit more personal because I take character of somebody very, very important over a lot of other things. Like if I can tell who you are, then that's how I take everything else you say once I see you, if that makes any sense. But I'm going to try to keep this as crime oriented as possible. Promise. So let's get started.
Steve, when these documents...
Why can I not hear this? Maybe it's just my volume.
Drop and just layers of... Steve, when these documents drop and just layers of information that we've been waiting for suddenly are in our fingertips.
Where was that? Then why do you watch me be cruel to him? Why are you here? Why do you continue to like complain about the way that I talk about things, but then continue to watch? No one's forcing you to be here, just like no one's forcing Steve to go around and lie. Okay.
Do you and Chris these things and
times where
are in our fingertips? Do you and Christy and the family get advance knowledge? Do you get a heads up it's coming? Does someone walk through it with you and help it to land in a more sensitive way?
There is times where they will reach out, especially when they know it's something that's a little hits home. If it's going to say stuff about Kaylee, I would expect them to come out. But there's been some back and forth a little bit to tell them, prepare us more because our phones are going to ring. We're going to see people. I work at a hospital, so there's probably 4,000 or 5,000 people there. So, it's good to let us know what's going on so we don't accidentally say something that doesn't make any sense because we don't know what's coming out. And so
that's where it starts. And he says similar things like this throughout the entire interview, which literally point to the fact he has no new information. Not only that, but we also need to remember that whenever the information for the 911 call came out, he came out here acting like he was just completely shocked and surprised by it until the audio came out. Then he came out here and said, he took steps to be able to do what he needed to do, which meant that he was responsible for the audio coming out, which we pretty much already knew. But before that, before he knew that the audio was available, before he knew that he could make moves on that, he was dumbfounded. No one gave him a heads up. They had no idea anything was coming. It cannot be both. So he cannot come out here and say that he knows the evidence and he knows how strong the case is, but then in turn say, we have to tell them that we need more. They're not giving us enough. They're not giving us enough of a heads up. I'm out here saying all these things because they're not telling me what to say. If they were telling you things, you would probably still want to be out here talking whenever you're not supposed to, which is the problem. And I don't understand why he hasn't understood that. And I understand him wanting to stand up for Kaylee and even Maddie. I mean, and even Xana and Ethan, if that's really his intention here. But the way that he's doing it is not the way to do it. You cannot be coming out here with things claiming that you have real, actual, factual information while also admitting no one's talking to you. I just don't really see how that works. I just don't. I honestly just don't. Thank you for the $9.99 super sticker, Rose. I very much appreciate it. I really do.
Somebody's just seen it and they take advantage of you not knowing what's going on, or they assume and you just say something wrong because you not fully understand what's going on. So it's back and forth, but they've gotten better. And I really like the team. They're good human beings. Everybody that's been working there is really impressive. And
now this is the second time of him doing the interview. So him saying it that time about how much he likes these guys, it was a little bit easier. But if you go back to the one where he did it on News Nation right before this, he took the biggest gulp of his life in the middle of that sentence. And that's usually a sign that it's something that's not truthful.
And
that's the prosecution team?
Yeah, the prosecution team and the investigators, everybody that's involved in this case has been really, really good to us.
Do you have like a liaison, someone in particular who's your point man?
There's a victim advocate, but I'll be honest, they don't work when you once you leave the county that you're in. That victim's advocate doesn't know the court like they normally would. So a lot of times we hear before they hear. There's times where we've actually contacted them about things that are going on, and they're like, no, that's not the case. And we're like, fortunately it is.
I can actually vouch for that when it comes to anything that has nothing to do with evidence. Because there was a situation, I think it was the 911 call, and people were trying to contact the courthouse and find out what was going on. And I contacted the phone number for the actual Kohberger case department. Like if you go to the Ada County website, there's a very specific portal that they created just for the Kohberger case. It has a specific email, a specific address, a specific phone number. When people were calling them, I contacted them. Several other people contacted them. They had no clue what was going on. They had no idea that Washington had decided to take things into their own hands and not abide by Idaho's gag order and do whatever the hell they wanted to do because nobody was giving them an answer in their own Supreme Court over in Washington. They had no idea. No clue. So I'll say to some pieces, I can agree. Thank you for the $9.99, Sandy. Yeah, I honestly don't understand people that come over here just to complain. And they come in my comments too, and I'm like, as much time as you're spending over here doing all this, start your own channel. Run your mouth over there. Prove me wrong since you think that I'm so wrong all the time, but all you do is this without proof. It's free. Go start a channel. Jesus Christ, just go do it.
It was an ex parte hearing. And we're like, are you guys going to the ex parte? What's going on about it? And they won't even, because they're not supposed to be there. So they were never informed. And we're looking at the doc 3 or 4 times a day, at least.
They also don't know Steve Goncalves. And I'll be honest with you, look, I've done this job for a long time and everybody's different. Everyone processes being a family member of a crime victim differently. And even in this instance, some of the family members are very separated from this process. They don't want the updates. They may not even come to all of the trial.
Now, see, that's what we heard about Ethan's family. But then all of a sudden, I guess it's been like a month and a half or so now, we heard Stacey Chapin say that they're maybe starting to reconsider. I hope they all go. Regardless of anything, they all need to be there. And if they don't, I just have a feeling that if they don't go to trial, regardless of how this goes, it's going to be a big regret. That's just me in my opinion. Thank you for the 1999 legendary. You don't have to send me spite money. Just let her keep running her mouth. I mean, seriously, if she wants to waste her precious limited time here, let her. We can just go ahead and have fun. Because, like, this is just ridiculous. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to block her because I don't have time for stupid people. I really just don't. I am not about to stroke out over anybody that's not important. And there's, like, as many people on my hand that's important in my life that could cause me to stroke out, and they're all blood related to me. So, anyway, let's continue.
So it's just everyone processes differently. Do you ever think about that in terms of how the other families and you are all going to get together in August and July?
Okay. I'm sorry, but I can't not say something here. Okay. Please do not be fooled in believing that over the last 2.5 years, all of the almost $200,000 that have been raised over the multiple GoFundMes that this family has started for one reason or another, please do not be fooled into thinking that any of that money is going to help any of the families get to trial. All of the families are on their own, including Maddie's family. They have a separate GoFundMe because the Goncalveses and them are not trying to plan being at the trial together. The Goncalveses are getting everything handed to them. They've gotten, again, probably almost like close to $200,000, if not more, from other donations and other things. They're getting free room and board offered to them, which is great. You know, have all the support you want to. But to sit here and know that you're not the only people here and that you are the only one out in the spotlight because you decided to be Mr. Alpha and put the rest of the families on the back burner and out of the public eye, you are now not taking that alpha responsibility and making sure that everyone else that you've pushed out of the public eye gets the exact same treatment that you are. And that's another problem that I have with the Goncalveses. That's not right. That's not fair. It's bullshit is what it is, especially since he's going to come out here and act like Maddie was one of their children. Well, then why the hell does Maddie's family have to run their own freaking GoFundMe to get to trial, Steve? Christy, explain that. They want all these extra family members and people to go with them to Boise that are not going to even be allowed to sit there in the courtroom while just letting the other families have to do it and fend for themselves. And that's bullshit. That's utter bullshit. I just can't believe how ridiculous. Thank you for the 1999 Rose. I know it's ridiculous. And like Maddie's dad's, did he have one? I think I shared it one time. And then Maddie's mom's, I shared Maddie's mom's the other day. And last thing that I heard is that Xana's mom's church might be trying to get something together for her so they can help her get down there. I don't know about her. I don't know about Jeff and them. I don't know about the rest of them. I know that Stacey Chapin and them are well off. They're going to be able to afford it or whatever. But like to have all that money raised because of something that happened to all 4 of these families, and you're not even trying to make this like a thing that y'all all heal and get there together and actually show the kind of support together that you all should be, is just so selfish. It's so selfish.
And in September and October, and how you're going to be together in this process?
I mean, a little bit. I met people just like last time at court. I met some people that are part of the case that
This was
I'd never seen before. Some parents of the survivors.
Did y'all catch that the first time? So apparently somebody's dad, probably, I'm going to assume Dylan's. And yes, I'm assuming, and I can say that. And I can assume that based on the fact that now Dylan and her father's text messages are evidence. So I'm going to just assume, based on the fact, again, that who he's talking about is probably Dylan's father. But to know that this is the first time that he's even seen one of the survivors' parents, at a hearing is interesting. Right? I kind of thought so. But I don't know. You'd think that it wouldn't have been the first time to see somebody like that at court. You'd figure they'd, maybe not every time. Like, is he only showing up now because his name is being mentioned for talking to Dylan before the 911 call? Is now the only time he actually cares? It's a little strange.
So, you know what? I have 5 children, so I expect people to behave differently. I expect people to have different ways to process. It's nothing new to me.
He's about to say
I've said this before. My brother just reminded me, he's like, our name means built for battle. Goncalves means built for battle. And
keep the fact that he just mentioned his brother in mind when he calls Hitler here in a minute, okay?
Maybe that's just the way I was built. I wasn't gonna let this turn into a case where it went cold, or there wasn't somebody. There was times where people would call me and say, will you do an interview? And I'd say, I can't. And they didn't even do a story on it. And I remember going back and watching and say, what?
I want to know for real. And I'm not really trying to be an asshole right here. I'm really just not. But I just don't believe half of the crap this man says. Sorry about it. I just don't. Okay. And if that's harsh, get over it. Put a 1 in the chat if you believe him. Yes, his brother is in prison. His Nazi brother is in prison for murder. Yes. That's why I know for a fact he called him Hitler, besides reading his mouth, because him talking about his brother, who just reminded him probably about how strong his last name is, probably put him in the mindset to say something similar to that brother. That's all that I'm saying. Put a 1 in the chat if you believe him. Put a 2 in the chat if you don't. I'm sorry, but this case is so damn high profile. If no one speaks to you, they're still going to talk about it. You're not the only victim's family member, Steve-O. I don't believe that. That's putting so much weight on his importance here, and that's not fair. That's not fair. Yeah, I don't believe him either.
Well, I wonder what the story's gonna be. They didn't do a story because they didn't have someone to talk to.
Bullshit.
So I said, you know what my daughter's gone through, Maddie May went through, the least I can do is, make myself sit down.
The least you can do is make sure her mama gets to trial and her daddy. That's the least that you could do, Mr. Moneybags.
And communicate and keep people focused on the case. And
we don't need
I don't take it lightly that Ann stretched this out, made me go across the state of Idaho, 7 hours each way. I don't take that lightly. And Shannon, my lawyer, told her job is to get everyone to forget. Her job is to stretch this out so long that the witnesses don't even remember what happened, or they're not crisp.
Honey, Dylan didn't even remember what happened as it was happening. What do you mean? See, this is why I knew that I really told myself too. I was like, I know some of the stuff he said already. I've watched about 75% of this. I'm going to really try not to just snap every time he says some stupid shit. But how can you just not help it? Like, knowing that we have been dealing with this information coming at us, the way that it's been coming at us for the 2.5, almost 3 years now, how can you just not react when he says certain things? Like, I just can't help it. Thank you for the $9.99, Rose. I just can't. Like, it's not fair that he's out here acting like this. It's not fair at all.
On that stand. So nobody says you have to sit back and take it. So I'm not going to take it. I'm going to come forward and I'm going to keep it fresh. And if there's a chance to keep it in the media and keep people focused on.
When was anyone not ever focusing on this case? When was this case ever not in the media? Can somebody ever recall a time where you didn't hear about this case? Like, I really feel like he's just trying to act like if it wasn't for him, no one would even care. We cared before we even knew all of their names. It's just astounding to me how selfish and self-centered this man seems to be.
On it and say, hey, what is going on? Did that guy get away with it? They get back into the story and put pressure on, everybody that we hold this case to the, fullest extent of the law. And, people don't like to talk about it, but sometimes, people have to pay the ultimate price for the crime that they committed.
I believe that, but it has to be the right person. People know that. That's another thing that kind of gets on my nerves when it comes to people acting like certain things mean certain things and certain things don't. I never once said that I wanted Bryan Kohberger to get off on a technicality. I've literally said the opposite. Like, I don't even know how many freaking times. Technicalities don't don't give an answer. It doesn't matter how I feel. It doesn't matter that I don't think they got the right guy. A technicality isn't going to help the situation. So no, I don't want a technicality. Is there going to be a technicality? I don't know, probably. I mean, damn. Look at what's happening. And there have been cases that have been dropped because of negative publicity, because of leaks, because of stupidity. I can't remember the exact statute, but somebody was passing it around on Twitter, the actual statute in Idaho for this situation that could cause this to all poof. And then what happens? The house is gone. Then what do? They're going to have to try to reprove their point, or they're going to have to try to prove another point. Are they going to just not give a shit? I mean, possibilities are important. We don't really know what's going to end up happening here. And all the lies and all the insanity, Steve is like literally out here sabotaging his own daughter's justice. He's been out here for 2 years saying that Bryan's device has touched the Wi-Fi. He goes on Drunk Turkey right before this interview and says, I had that wrong. Mr. IT had that wrong. No, Mr. IT lied. And now all the facts are coming out. And now Mr. IT has to backtrack. That's just my opinion.
It's a long, you just mentioned it's, 6-7 hours to drive to Boise.
Thank you for the $10. Say it louder.
Are you and the family all planning to be there for the entire duration? It's going to be about 3-4 month trial.
Yeah, we won't be able to do it like that. We have, grand.
Hold on, Silo. You're always asking questions that I can easily just show you the evidence of. Someone said, show the picture, Jules. So I guess I'm going to have to show the picture, Silo. Speaking of Silo, have you went and listened to my video about Lucas Anderson yet? I want an actual answer. So while I'm trying to prove you wrong on that, go ahead and answer that question down in the comments. So yes, actually. And as a matter of fact, I know I watched something not long ago about that 3-letter organization member. Pretty positive that it's actually a situation. So yeah, look, Steve Goncalves' brother is not only like just a bad person all the way around, but he's also very much involved in things that he probably just, shouldn't be involved in. And Steve should probably be a lot more careful whenever he comes out here saying certain things, because people are going to start asking questions and putting things together. So when he calls Hitler, and he does it twice, and he does it while he is trying to show some sort of endearment for the way that he feels that Hitler is controlling the courtroom. This is a picture of Steve's brother, Nathan, who's in prison for murder. Do you see something on his arm? Yes. Someone of a different race can be part of some other freaking weird cult-like situation who thinks their race is disgusting. Okay, that's just how it works. Self-hatred works that way. So yes, does that answer your question, Silo? Just like it makes no sense how I understand his frustration, but he's coming out here and he's saying that he wants to change all kinds of rules about how Bryan Kohberger can't get his commissary. Well, what about his brother? His brother is in there for murder. And what about his brother's commissary? Because if his brother is talking to him, and again, I don't know if Steve has multiple brothers. I'm just going based off of the way that his mindset changed after he mentioned his brother's name. And I know a lot about psychology, and I'm not a professor. I'm not a professional. I just know that I've had to look really deep into some things for myself. And there are very little bitty minute things that can trigger behavioral patterns. So him talking about his brother and his brother being into this sort of mindset, I don't know if he shares that mindset with him or not. I just don't. But for him to talk about his brother saying how strong their name is, blah, 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 and then he just gets into this admiration speech about Hitler, but then calls him Hitler twice, that's weird to me. Sorry, not sorry about it. And I'm not making the shit up. You're going to see it yourself. And Ashleigh caught it. Because whenever he said it, she makes a face. She makes a face of complete and utter disbelief for quite a long time to be able to realize that he should have seen her face to know she heard you, bro. So just be ready for it. Oh my goodness. $9.99. Thank you, Chris. That she's a fan of Kanye's new song. Kanye's got problems. I don't usually pay attention to that pop culture stuff, but the stuff I see on Twitter about what's going on with that man is gross. Let's continue.
And babies and everyone's got their big family. So we'll rotate, and that's a lot of time off from work. So I'll fly back and forth. I'll work with the hospital to make sure everything's in place. But yeah, I don't expect everyone to be able to be there every day, but we'll always have somebody for the family directly there, and then get some of that information.
It can only be the specific people. Like the list that came out, it's basically Stephen, Olivia, the rest of the siblings, the grandma for Steve's side, the grandma on Christy's side, and then Steve and Christy. So it can't just be like anybody. It has to be those very specific people.
From the prosecution team, one-on-one, and then relay that back. You know, that's the thing, is there's nothing like getting the information directly from the court, because then you don't have to guess.
Yeah.
You know, and then that's.
Hello. We come out here talking about information straight from the court, but then we get called conspiracy theorists and we get told that we're lying and making things up. So let's just remember what Steve just said there. The next time that anybody on that side of the camp wants to act like we're the crazies, okay? Okay.
That's why I've always said, is like, you guys don't have to tell me inside information, but if you can give us talking points that are safe, that are accurate, and, you know, this is what's going to happen going forward, then, and we can point people back to the court docs, and, you know, that's obviously the best information you're ever going to get. But for a good 2 years, we had no court docs. So look, everything was sealed.
I mean, you've been kept in the dark.
He just said they're not giving us pointers. They're not giving us things to talk about. Everything that he's been coming out and talking about, it's all stuff that he had in the very beginning from like the feds, whenever they were talking to the FBI, the profile that the feds were trying to build up for who they thought did this. It's all old information. He's not getting anything new. So that's why I really feel like he's in some sort of like mental block. Either that or he's just arrogant. I mean, I can be compassionate and say it's an emotional situation and it's just causing him to behave in an irrational way that he has no control over, or this is who he is. Up to you to decide, I guess.
Dark, you know, and we've been kept in the dark, as you know, we should be in a lot of this circumstances, not in all of them. I'm not a big fan of hooded justice. I'm a fan of open process. It's what makes us different than a lot of other countries I've been to. But I just always think about how much harder it is for you and the people who deserve to know, the people who shouldn't be in the dark, and for this long of a process. So, I mean, I'm sending you a big virtual hug here just to.
And see, I don't disagree. Honestly, the fact that the families don't have more actual answers is an issue for me. He's not wrong whenever he says it's their fault that we're coming out here and saying all these things because they're not telling us anything. His behaviors because of that are completely irrationally not okay, but he's not wrong in the fault when it comes to they should be a little bit more open. I know that they can't just tell them everything, but whenever you still don't have true answers about how your child died, I understand how that could be frustrated. That's why, again, I feel like he's in just this like emotional block that he just can't push forward. I don't know. I might just be thinking too deep about it, but that's just how I feel.
Let you know that we are aware that you are going through more than most people can understand. And that brings me to what we're learning today. I mean, more details I did not expect to hear, and they're kind of confusing, I'll be honest with you. The story that the surviving roommates tell in these documents is that they actually saw Xana. They saw her lying down in her room. So the door had to have been open. All this time, we've all been imagining that Xana and Ethan were behind a locked door, and that's why no one could get to them, and thought.
We weren't imagining it. We were told that by Mr. Alpha here.
But there must be something wrong. We'll call 911. Was this a surprise to you to hear this detail?
Yeah. I actually talked to Hunter a little bit back very beginning.
Put the blame on Hunter.
I remember him saying something about the doors, and I, not knowing the details, thought he was speaking of the outside door.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Because you're about to say you're talking about the doors being open. Your story about Hunter is that the door was shut. See how he just like right past that shit? Yeah, I talked to Hunter for a minute. Da-da-da-da-da-da. You see that? He just put all the blame on Hunter. Yes. He's full of shit. I don't understand. Why can't you just be like, yeah, whenever we talk to the kids or whatever, we must have misunderstood the thing about the door being closed. Why isn't he sticking to that? He's switching to the doors being open. He masterfully just went around that because he doesn't want to take responsibility. He could at least do that.
So now, now looking back, I said, oh, the door being open, he was referring to the bedroom door, not.
See? Oh, the door being open. He was referring to the bedroom door. She didn't ask you about a door being open, Steve. She asked you about a door being closed. And see, he does pretty much the same thing over on Daniel's channel. And it makes me so frustrated because Daniel is the one who came out and reiterated the story that Christy told him about the door and Hunter. Because remember, Christy had to come out and be like, yes, I told him everything. I really did an interview with him. Those are all the details that I gave him. Yes. Remember? Where's the responsibility? The door being open or the door being closed changes so many things. It also led us to, holy shit, Dylan saw her. So it goes away from thinking that something might have been wrong and not calling 911 because you're scared of the person in the house doing something to you. But for her to sit there and admit that she thought that she was just on the floor from alcohol, and you still waited 8 hours to even give a shit about your so-say friend? And either story, either direction, I'm supposed to feel sympathy for them. I'm sorry. In what planet? On what planet? In what reality would I feel sorry for somebody that has that kind of mindset to just not give a shit? No. No. And no once more. No.
That outside door, because there was reports of the outside door being open.
That's not what she meant.
And I was like, okay, so that's true. That's how you can get things wrong. Somebody tells you the door's open, and you assume it's the front door, and it was actually the bedroom door.
That's not at all the question.
So, we try to stay away from anything, but that was new information. That was
he can't even take responsibility, and he's just blaming it on. That's why I say I feel like Hunter's gotten like the brunt of a lot of bullshit. I feel like, again, that Dylan and Bethany call people over so that they can have the weight of the discovery on them. And now here comes this story that is now the complete opposite of what they are the one that what they told us, and they still are refusing to take the responsibility, and instead are flipping it on Hunter and then switching it to, outside and open instead of inside and closed because he doesn't want to actually admit anything. It's just wild to me. Thank you for joining, Plastique. Welcome. And just a reminder to members, we do our members only live on the last Monday of the month. So watch out for that.
An eye opener, but I cannot.
It was quite the eye opener, Steve. Just not in the way that you think.
You know what? I just imagine her booking her tail off, going down those steps as fast as she possibly could, seeing something out the side of her eyes, and just running all the way down the steps. So I'm sure she's seen something, but it wasn't like a slow motion, like looking and staring and poking through. At least my girls wouldn't be too scared to do anything.
Well, and the way
my girls would be too scared to do anything like that. See, that statement in that situation being discussed is odd to me because we're talking about Dylan running past Xana's door on the way to Bethany's room and seeing Xana. And that's his statement? I don't know. That's a little strange. Sleuth. I can never say your second thing right for some reason. Because I know why. My son's name is Slade. So I instantly want to say something along those lines. Sleuth-slation. Oh, there we go. He became a pawn to the Talking Heads, man. Yeah, he did. That's my problem. But it's like they're allowing it. That's my issue with this. This is my issue with this. We know from what he's saying that the prosecution's not talking to him. But the prosecution's not coming out here and trying to stop what he's doing either because it helps cover up what's really happening. I say this all the time, and I know for a fact that it's true just because I've watched it happen my entire life. And everyone that's going to listen to me say this has too. You've seen the way that the media does things, okay? We've seen them take truths and twist them and break them and turn them into something that they're not, and that is what gets written in history, not the actual facts. Okay, we've seen it in this case. We've seen it with people that have done interviews about Bryan that would not go a certain way, and so the interview just didn't matter. It even happened with the Ken Maines guy. He said he was talking to Ashleigh on News Nation, and they wanted him to talk negatively about the police in this case, but to him, he thought they were doing a great job and he wouldn't go along with their narrative. So they cut him off. They wouldn't let him talk. They're doing the exact same thing here, except they're just allowing Steve to come out here. They don't care that he's also talking shit about them. They don't care because it's just words. It's covering up the facts. It's covering up the facts that they don't have a lot to go off of here. They took the one thing that they really had that they could really prove and they turned it into a big lie. How are we supposed to even believe that they're just going to be able to magically pull something out when they are literally taking the truth about how the IGG even came to be and the phone call and everything and creating a lie that can be told under oath in good conscience? How are we supposed to believe that they have anything whenever they have to create a lie, when they have to sit there and tell us that they have to create the lie? How are we supposed to believe anything, regardless of if you think he is guilty or not? When you know that that is the way that this is being played out, how are you supposed to trust anything? Explain that to me. I need to know. I need people to make me understand. Thank you for the 1999 rose. Dylan, friends like that, who needs enemies? No joke. Not a decent human. I'm sorry. He's a Mara and Black Whale head. Media is fake. Yeah. BlackRock. Yeah, BlackRock is really bad. And that's my issue with Dylan. This isn't just about not making the 911 call. We now have her admitting that she thought that Xana was passed out from drinking too much. Okay, you looked at Snap Maps and saw that they were in your house. You called her and Ethan's phones over and over again. You try to contact them on social media. You heard their phones going off in her room. And the last thing that you remembered was that you thought she was passed out from alcohol. And you are supposed to make me believe that even though you were up and on all these different social media websites, and even though you were taking photos and videos and editing things and deleting things and that you didn't leave that room to go and look at Xana? Because if you really, really didn't, even in the most innocence of terms, then you're still a shit human. Both of them. Because there's no way that she didn't get down there and say something to Bethany. Oh my God, Xana was on the ground. Like, come on. All the way around, it's just not, they're not good. It's just amazing to me how this type of behavior is just become something to covet and protect. Oh, well, if they're just too shy because of how the media has been acting, we're just not going to put their faces on camera. What? You mean the girl who's refusing to come back over state lines, even though they're supposed to have the right guy behind bars, we're going to protect her face? For what? Maybe that's the answer you need to show the public, because then maybe we'll finally get some truth. Thank you for the $3 super sticker. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for the $19.99. Blaming is easy for him. He has no shame and no responsibility for his actions. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. I know. Trust me, I learned that the hard way. The really hard way.
Way she describes it, as you know, as little information as we have, is that she thought this was Xana on the floor, just drunk. I mean, look, these are college kids. This is what they do. The worst thing that maybe their minds might go to is that somebody may have had too much to drink, or God forbid, might have OD'd. But
really, the worst thing. That's the worst thing after she's apparently just seen somebody walking through the house? It's probably not the first thing that I would have thought of if I had actually seen a stranger walking through my home and then saw my friend on the ground. Alcohol definitely would have not been the first thing to come to mind. No.
No one's mind would have ever gone to what actually happened. And even then, the level of fear was really high. You know, that Dylan is running downstairs to Bethany's room.
Okay, she just said it. No one would ever think that would be the first thing, but the level of fear. Which one? Which one?
Scared in the middle of the night. She's seen a guy in the house, but the level of fear, which is high, is nowhere near what was really happening. You know, that's the thing that
even
2020 hindsight is all great.
Exactly.
But in that moment, this kid is just she's still a kid, right? I still think of these guys as kids.
If they could walk around and take photos in masks holding weapons and then post them on social media, let's just come on now.
Well, I know when I was 19, I made some stupid, crazy, decisions that make no reflection on the person I am today.
Say that to Samantha Nelson. I'm sorry. I couldn't hold that one in. I'm sorry.
Because I just didn't have life experience. So I give the same grace to anybody who's probably under the age of 25, to be honest, especially for guys. I know girls start making more logical decisions earlier in life than
So
at
we're
least
going to
I
get
did.
scientific
But,
now, Steve.
I know guys can, get a guy in a motorcycle or a pickup truck out in the dirt roads, and you'll question their logic. So yeah.
Oh, and I'm painting my nails.
So
y'all are like wondering why.
The other surprising.
Well, thank you for the 10 gifted memberships, Jennifer. Congratulations to you guys that end up getting those. Congratulations. Thank you.
Detail that just gave me a lot of pause was the fact that the girls were all upstairs in Kaylee's room, talking, the roommates, Bethany and Dylan and Maddie and Kaylee. At 2:00 in the morning, they'd all been out. They'd all come back, except Xana hadn't come back yet with Ethan. And they were all talking, as college kids do. Night is still young at 2 a.m. And they were thinking of going back out again, going back out to maybe go to the food truck and get, another round of late night food.
So let me ask y'all, because I honestly don't believe this story. So put a 1 in the chat if you actually believe that they were going to be going out to get food and that was the actual conversation. Put a 2 in the chat if you don't believe the story. I'll tell you, I really just honestly don't believe the story because it's only coming from what sounds like Dylan. I don't know if it mentions Bethany talking about it in the grand jury transcripts or not, so that part might not be accurate, but the messages that they've shown us so far, okay, so before the people that are here to haunt me or whatever the frick y'all are over here doing on a Saturday night, you weirdos, this is just a so far scenario, okay? So far, the messages that we've been shown between Dylan and Eric, they don't mention food. She's just asking him basically like if he's out driving or whatever. Yeah, I don't believe it, broski. I don't. There's nothing about food. Now, them being hungry, like, okay, let me start from there. The story isn't impossible, okay? It's not like something that's not likely. They were 2 extremely drunk girls who could not even stand straight, okay? Maddie was wobbly as water. Kaylee had to put her phone in her face, okay? Them sharing one dish was not going to cut it. It was not going to be enough carbs to get them to sober up. It was not going to be enough to even make them. It was a snack, okay? That's basically like someone who smokes a whole bunch, eating like a cupcake. That's just not going to be enough, okay? They need more food to soak all that whatever up that they were drinking, okay? So them wanting more food after that, it doesn't seem like a out of the realm situation. I just have issues with it because, and some of you have already heard this before, they just got dropped off by this guy. And if she's in the same room as Maddie and Kaylee, then why is she having to ask him if he's out driving when he just left? Like, he dropped them off. What was the timing? 1:56, right? She's messaging him at 2:10. That's 14 minutes. So you're telling me that in those 14 minutes, they're talking about this and they don't mention the fact that they just got dropped off by him and he's not getting like brought up. Like, Dylan doesn't bring him up and say, I'm going to text Eric, and they don't say, oh, he brought us home, he's out driving. Like, that didn't happen. It just seemed like it's those things that kind of seem a little strange. I don't know. It's those things. So I don't know. The story makes sense to me, but I just don't believe that it's true. Because there's no proof of it. There's just no proof of it. And then they ended up just not getting food at all. Like, even if they didn't want to end up going out, they didn't end up ordering anything. And then the food that did get ordered, the person that ended up being like involved in that food order, turns out we'd been lied to the entire time, which we pretty much already assumed. And they're claiming that Xana and Ethan weren't even home after 2:00. So that's something else that got thrown all crazy, which is insane because why are we not being told the truth about that? I don't know why they can't just tell us the truth about that. Yeah. Louisiana is another whole situation, broski. Thank you for the 1999. Yeah, that state's a whole nother thing. But yeah, I don't know that. Okay, this isn't like a weight loss tip thing, Silo. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't trust anything coming from Dylan at this point because of the way that her story sounds. And so much of it just sounds like it's either complete bullshit or she was literally just so out of her mind, again, in the most innocent of terms, so completely just out of her mind that she just doesn't remember. But you can't even say that. You really just cannot even say that, because she goes into her room at like 3:20. She's adding a contact to her phone at 3:51. She's coherent. She's doing things. She's adding people to her phone. And then a handful of minutes later, all hell breaks loose right after a DoorDash. Like, there's just no way that she was just that out of it and that asleep. Like, none of it makes any sense. It's just so backwards. Like, none of it. It's like it's pieces to two different stories that they're trying to smash together that are just not fitting. Like, there's just major pieces missing.
And I just was sort of gobsmacked by this moment of how possibly things could have been different. Have you gone over this sort of theory in your mind?
You know what? I have, but it's hard I can't go there, really. I don't try to think of all the what ifs. What I try to think is what's the positive aspect of this? And to me, it makes that timeline that much tighter. It proves that DM was in the house, sent a text to the same driver that Kaylee used, which is a friend of the house that they've all used. It backs up all these narratives and things that I know to be factual. And it helps put another piece in the puzzle. And that's one thing I've always said is, if you're innocent, you want the evidence to come out, because the evidence is going to prove it's not going to fit you. You're going to be able to be like, well, they got all this evidence. I'm innocent, so it's not going to fit me. So let's just rip through this evidence and figure out where I can say that's not me.
Okay, great point. And I already said that them fighting the 911 call and all that other stuff was stupid. It needs to all be in there. There's plenty of things that the defense does that I'm just like, what are you doing? Are you for real? Can we just not? This is stupid. Okay. He's not. I guess I need to listen to what he said one more time to like really get the wording right for what I want to say here. Just give me a second.
You're going to be able to be like, well, they got all this evidence. I'm innocent, so it's not going to fit me. So let's.
Okay. Tell me, what about the 911 call? And what about the text messages and the social media information that was released? Okay. What in that information pointed to the suspect? Like, I'll look at the comments here for a second and see if somebody says something that maybe they caught or whatever. But besides the fact that Dylan is saying that she saw someone in the house that might have been wearing black, that literally does not point to anyone specific. That points to a situation that's a very generic whatever. What in the messages, what in their social media information, what in the 911 call actually pointed to Bryan Kohberger? There's nothing. So whenever he's out here saying what he's going to continue to say and what he's been saying in all these other interviews, that the 911 call and all these other things are just more proof, it just points to him more, it just tightens the timeline more. How? I'm really just trying to understand where he's coming from with the way that he's saying these certain things mean certain things. And again, he can't say that he knows more than what we do, because he's already been very, very clear that that's not true. That he reads the documents just like we out here in the public do, because that's all they have. The state's not talking to them. So what? What does he hear that we're not hearing? Oh,
just rip through this evidence.
He looked very sus in the screenshot. I fixed it. And I'm not doing that on purpose. This is just where I stop whenever I need to talk. I don't know. I just feel like, yeah, like the timeline, but the timeline's already established like by other means. You know what I mean? Like the security camera apparently has the car they're claiming. They have the other camera that has the noises. Then they have the timestamps for Dylan and Bethany's conversation. But what about any of that actually like points to that? You know what I mean? Like, I get that he's like, and I'm grateful that they're out there too. The more information that comes out, the more that things need to just start making sense. Like, I don't give a shit at this point for the people that say, oh, we're just the public, we don't need to know shit. No, at this point, we're the only people that probably need to be looking at stuff, because something's wrong. And I'm not saying me, I'm not even saying y'all, but somebody else needs to come in here and look at this. Because something is not right here. They're bringing in all these extra people. They're taking out things that they're trying to say were so damning before. They're not being specific about things that they should be being specific about. And I know that we're not at trial yet. But whenever we have what's happening right now, different circumstances call for different circumstances, okay? We need to stop acting like everything fits a pattern, because that's just absolutely ignorant. Nothing is the same. No two people are the same. No two circumstances are the same. Things should not be handled the same when it comes to all of this. Regular cases don't have this. They don't have all this negative publicity. They don't have all these lies, all this insanity, all these secrets, all these different things being done in the shadows. But whenever cases do, how come there isn't some higher power that doesn't instantly swoop in and be like, hold on, we have too much going on in the public. There's too many things causing too much chaos. There's obviously something going on here. We need to stop what's happening and we need to take a look. Where are those people? Isn't that supposed to be something that like the Supreme Court should be doing? How come nobody in that area has bothered to really like step in and take a look at anything? I think that's what bothers me the most, is that everyone is just like, everyone with power is just allowing all of this disgusting chaos to happen. Like, I don't know exactly if this is 100% correct, okay? All I know is that whenever I was looking into the difference between like state grand juries and federal grand jury things and like all these different things for how rules work, what I pretty much determined is that even under a gag order, if there's false information coming out that is being considered case fact, evidence fact, then a defense attorney is allowed to come out and make a statement on behalf of their client to clear up the false case fact. Like just the fact he's vegan, and if he's not vegan, and if he was offended, no one, who gives a shit? But when it comes to things that actually matter, stalking, those kinds of things that were just allowed to continue for so long, I get the standing silent thing, but how come no one decided to fix that until it was like pretty much too late, before the state got all pissy that all of their crap that ended up causing so many issues were starting to actually show up in the case when it came to trying to figure out if a change of venue was needed? How come then and only then, whenever they were about to get in trouble for allowing all this crap, did they finally come out and admit that it was all false? Why was there nothing done for that kind of behavior? I think that's what my problem is that it just continues over and over again, and it's just gross. And nothing stops anything. There's no actual power that comes in and makes a change.
To figure out where I can say, that's not me. But in this case, that's not what they're trying to do. They're trying to get everything tossed out, because every piece of information, whether it's DM contacting the driver and saying, hey, are you still around? Which backs up a story.
Okay, see, that's okay. I remember wanting to look at that. I'm going to pull up the text messages, because just like I said in the alt perp video that I put out right before this, there's a huge difference between Bryan Kohberger knowing people's names that are involved and handing names over, and the defense going through tips that were handed to them by the state, meaning discovery, and finding proof of an alternate perpetrator. I had to clear that up earlier. Same situation here. There's a huge difference between Dylan saying, are you still out driving, or are you out driving? And I honestly didn't remember then, and I don't remember now which one it was. So I wanted to find it. So I'm going to pull up the text messages and see which one it was, because those are two completely different things. And once I make sure that I have the right document up, okay, I have the right document up. Okay. Okay, where's the actual message though? I don't think, is it this one? Nope. I want to find the actual document that has the message. Or you know what? Was it actually in the... it might have been in the body. Let me look this way. Okay. Right here it says, the roommates debated going out to a food truck for a late snack, prompting Dylan to send a text at 2:10 a.m. to an Uber driver, which we know was freaking bullshit. She knew to see if he was driving. So right here again, it says DM text Uber driver at 2:10:29 to inquire if he is driving. Okay, and then go down to the bottom again, if he was driving. Okay, there's, again, a huge difference between are you still driving or are you driving? Are you still driving would imply that they did have the conversation. And then at some point the girls did say, yeah, Eric's the one that dropped us off. Okay. That would make the story a little bit more believable to me, honestly, the way that Steve just said it. It would make it a hell of a lot more believable to me. That right there is one of my problems I have with the story. So the way that the state is giving it to me, I have an issue with. The way that Steve just gave it to me makes more sense. Because like I said, I'm pretty sure if Eric would have gotten brought up, Kaylee or Maddie would have been like, oh yeah, he's the one that just dropped us off. That seems absolutely freaking normal. So let's see.
Let's be honest, the 19-year-old didn't know they're going to go through her phone. They're going to track it. There was this cast system. They're going to go all through this house. No one, they went upstairs, went downstairs. They didn't know.
The 19-year-old didn't know they were going to go through their phone. Does that mean that if she would have known they were going to go through her phone, that she would have done something differently? That's sort of like what that is sort of implies.
This, and they're not talking about cleaning up a murder scene. They're not talking about what do we got to.
Now, I know that this is just a defense document, but there is a defense document that now states that one of their experts has proof of direct and indirect cleanup at the crime scene in that 8-hour time period. We shall see what the evidence actually says, but that's what's being said right now. And that was out before he did this interview. So if he's actually reading the documents, he had to have seen that.
They're literally just girls being girls, sitting on a bed, talking, laughing, talking about, let's go get some food. Let's not go to bed. It's 2 a.m. Let's go have some more fun. And I'm sure they were very close to doing just that. And it's unfortunately they didn't. But on the one side it makes that house a little bit clearer and people know a little bit more what was going on.
Not really.
Yeah,
though.
I mean, and honestly, the what ifs are hard on this scenario as well because it's 2 a.m. And if they'd gone back out to the food truck, they might have been back by 3 or 3:30. And this monster, his timeline was 4 a.m. So it may not have made a difference, but it is just sort of an alarming thought that there was an idea to maybe leave the house.
And see how she instantly just like, she's one of the ones that she's pretty much just convinced it doesn't really go either way. I mean, if he's guilty and they have a way to prove that and the evidence comes out and, they actually can prove that, that's the direction that this channel is going to go because that's the whole point is the facts. That's just not where the facts are heading right now. But we also need to remember what else? That this timeline didn't make no sense. The timeline they gave us after they arrested Bryan Kohberger did not match any damn thing they had ever said before. And it instantly was noticeable. That was one of the first things that people started saying whenever the PCA came out was, what? Everything got moved by an hour? What the hell? Yeah. So let's not forget that.
And who knows what might have happened. There's also details that you've learned from, your conversations about the situation that presented itself on the 3rd floor when this killer perpetrated his crimes. You've learned that Maddie was killed first and then your daughter. What was the scenario that was laid out for you?
We wanted to know where she was at and how this happened as much as they would be able to share with us. And they said she was in bed and we're like, her bed, and they're like, no. So we're like, Maddie, because that's not unusual. They crash out in our house all the time together.
Now, I'll just say, and I've said this a bunch. Some people agree with this theory. Some people don't. I don't believe that just because Kaylee was found in Maddie's bed, that means that that's where she originally went to go to sleep that night. Originally, it was an okay situation, like in my, thought process, until we realized that like all her furniture and stuff was still in her room. And then with Murphy being found in there and the way that the noises were being described and the direction that the noises are being, described coming from or whatever, it just seemed more plausible to me that Kaylee was in her room and then heard something going on, left Murphy in the room, or maybe didn't leave Murphy in the room, but was originally in her room. And then after whatever attack took place, she was just put there where she was found. Now, again, that could be wrong. They could have easily fallen asleep in the same room. But I just, for some reason, something just tells me that that's not how it went.
4 or 5 of the girls sleep in the same bed. I don't know how they do it. But so we got those details and then we just, kept asking and, it's the last moments of your daughter's life, and you know that some of that information could be helpful to the case. So, you want to make sure that you know enough that you could be helpful if there is a certain thing in the room that was missing. Things like that. Do we have pictures that they don't have access to that, Maddie Mae's room lays out like layouts of the room, if it changed, things like that. So yeah, we learned that they went for Maddie first and then Kaylee.
See? He can't even help his slips. Did you not just hear what he said?
Things like that. Do we have pictures that they don't have access to that, Maddie Mae's room lays out like layouts of the room, if it changed, things like that. So yeah, we learned that they went for Maddie first.
Y'all hear it? Put the word in the chat.
Things like that. Do we have pictures that they don't have access to that, Maddie Mae's room lays out like layouts of the room, if it changed, things like that. So yeah, we learned that they went for Maddie first.
They went for Maddie first. Now, I know that some people can use they as a general, but let's be for real. Let's be for real. Bryan Kohberger's hands did not look like he had just caused all of the injuries that we're being told happened to Kaylee. And the way that the Goncalveses are telling that story, just her facial injuries alone could have ended her life. Multiple weapons were used on her. There is no markings on Bryan Kohberger. There is no way that he would have been able to inflict that kind of pain and breakage and destruction and there be nothing on him. I'm sorry. I don't give a damn. No.
First, and then Kaylee woke up. Kaylee showed signs of fighting and or a fight. I don't know really what somebody waking up with somebody stabbing you, how much fighting you can really do. But then this monster struck her multiple times.
2 months, 4 months, too much to handle. Thank you for being a member. Yeah, he slipped. Which is another reason why I wish that he would just be honest, because he used to actually say that, even if it is Bryan, he really just doesn't believe that he's the only person involved. He's open to there being more options. So he can't sit there the way that he does, I think on Chris McDonough's show, I think it was, and say that, yeah, he did feel a certain way until he saw all the evidence, but then also say that the state's not keeping them up to date and they have to constantly ask them to keep them up to date and to give them a heads up and they're just not doing it and it's their fault he's saying this because they're not telling. You see what I mean? Like, it just can't be both. It can't be both. He either knows that something is wrong here and he's just blatantly refusing to publicly come out and say it for some reason, or he really isn't just like a mental block and he can't help it. I mean, again, I could be wrong, but I feel like it's one of the two. There's something wrong with this whole scenario. I'm not trying to say that Steve is some sort of like fool. I honestly feel like he's too smart for this. I know that he sees that there's issues here. And that's what makes me, I think, the most upset is I know that he's not dumb.
And those were injuries that I was told that only she had in that room. I don't know about the other people downstairs, but that was one of those details where we kept to ourselves because people would come forward and say, "Oh, I know exactly what happened that night." And we,
Okay. The dogs wanted in. So, okay, let's continue.
I'll be like, "So describe what happened to Kaylee." And they couldn't do it. So that was something that helped us. And I really appreciate, Mabbit for sharing that information. And I know a lot of people screamed.
See, you heard that? He thanks Mabbit for sharing that information. And my dog just came in here. So if the camera moves, it's because they're all over the floor. He basically admits that all this stuff is over the phone. because he doesn't have any like documentation to prove any of this stuff. It's all stuff that was said, and that he doesn't want to say anymore until they get with him to give him like something else, because this is just phone calls. All that stuff with Mabbitt and those phone calls happened how many freaking years ago? Those are the phone calls from Mabbitt where they came out complaining, which they had every freaking right to, because holy shit, that Mabbitt was telling their minor children all of these gruesome details about Kaylee, like on the phone. Like, hello, you've been doing this job for how long? You know better. Okay. That's how long ago this information was being told to him. And he says he wants them to get together with him to show him the proof of all of this stuff before he says anything further, because it was just over the phone. That's a problem. That's a problem. Now, when it comes to her injuries, I don't feel like he's exaggerating. I mean, I don't see why he would feel the need to, because all the proof about her injuries are going to come out at trial. So if it comes out that she doesn't have all these wounds and stuff, that's going to make them look like crap. And I highly doubt that he's lying about that. It's probably going to be 1,000 times worse than what he's been able to say. And I can't even imagine how we're going to be able to stomach all of it. If let's just be serious. It's going to be difficult as hell to listen to that stuff. But all I'm going to be able to think is, how are we supposed to believe that one person did this without carrying a trace of what he apparently did out of that house onto anything that he owned, touched, visited, anything? That just doesn't seem plausible. It's just impossible in my brain. And that's in my brain. In my brain. Thank you for the $4.99 KP. Do you know the doc that has initials that show no connection to BK? HJ is missing. Was it a typo or intentional? You're talking about the DNA one? It would have been the one about Maddie's fingernails, probably. Maybe they didn't test him. Let me pull it up. We'll stop for a second. Let me pull it up. I won't just go past your question. Let me pull it up. I'm pretty sure it would have been. So basically, you're wanting me to validate that Hunter Johnson's DNA was not tested as a likely, that, or there wasn't any likelihood ratio whatsoever for Hunter Johnson under Maddie's nails. Let me see if I can find. Okay. So right here, I'll put this in the chat. This is the document I'm about to show you. Okay. So JD, CB, which is that Cole guy. So JD would be Jack Decor, CB, which is the Cole guy, EC, which is Ethan, XK, which is Xana, BF for Bethany, and then BK for Bryan, because I noticed that they didn't apparently have any of Dylan's DNA there either. Now, we don't see Kaylee's initials either, but I believe that that's because they've pretty much already determined that that's a possibility regardless, which it was honestly kind of strange the way that they did word it, because it was like it could be Maddie and another, like 2 other unknowns, or it could be Maddie and Kaylee and 1 other unknown. And I'm like, what do you mean it could be? How do you not know for a freaking fact if Kaylee's DNA is mixed in under Maddie's? And wouldn't it make the most sense that it would be? So yeah, I don't know. But yeah, Hunter's wasn't the only one. Hunter's wasn't the only one that was missing. I found it really interesting that Dylan's wasn't tested, like Dylan's didn't show up or whatever, but that Bethany's did. I don't know. But I guess weren't they like, wasn't Maddie Bethany's big? Isn't that how they word it? I think that's how that works. So I guess that does make sense. Thank you for the $9.99, Rose. They seems more accurate. Also, when the injuries are so different, that is a big indicator of several suspects. Criminology 101. Yeah, and it's crazy too, because we've heard that for a while. We've heard that for a while, and I've always had a big question because they've mentioned. I'll put this right here so I can get back to it in a second. I'll pull up the other document where I believe it has his full name. I have to read this again. I have ADHD so bad whenever, as I've gotten older, it's gotten so bad. And I mentioned the other day in my life, I was going to start taking something for my brain. And I did go buy some of that CQ10 or whatever the frick it's called. It's in my kitchen. I bought some. I took one this morning. Okay. Right. So whenever they first were describing the wounds before we had the probable cause order, they had been described already as like different ways. Plus also Mabbitt came out and said they were more like punctures, like gouges. Like it was very much different than what you would hear if it was coming from a blade. So then it was really, really interesting whenever we heard from Ethan's family that his golf clubs were being held with the defense as discovery. Now, I don't know if they ever got them back. I don't know if they get them back after they were done with them or if they're keeping them for some reason, if they're an actual exhibit that's going to show, that'll be interesting. But the way that some of the wounds were described and then knowing what golf clubs can do, I believe that the heads can come off. They can be used for gouging, those kinds of things. Boomer. My big dog just made everything feel like an earthquake. Okay. I think he's done. Ridiculous. Okay. Yeah. Plus, on top of that, we have now the expert coming out on, I believe, the defense side and saying that 2 weapons on Maddie, not on Maddie, on Kaylee. And some people had mentioned, okay, well, what about like the blade portion and then like the back end of the handle being considered 2 weapons? My answer to that is that this is apparently a weapons expert person, and I feel like he would be smart enough to determine the difference, to know if the second sort of like attack weapon that he's seeing could possibly be the back end of the K-bar. He would probably not consider that 2 different weapons in order to make that a possibility of more than one suspect, if that makes sense. He would have to be able to determine the difference in order to like super make that work. So yeah, and then on top of that, the PCA, right smack dab in the middle of all of the way that it was described to us in the beginning and all the information that we have now, here comes the PCA with how many different descriptions of the injuries. Isn't that wild? Yeah, that's absolutely insane. Give me 1 second. I have to go do something for my kid real quick. Okie dokie. Okay, let me see if it's this document. Because one of them has his full name, the Cole guy. I guess I'll show you. Okay. It's not this one. Cole. There it is right here. So, okay, I'll put this link too. This document right here is where his full name is said. Cole Behringer, no, not Behringer, Behrenberg. His likelihood ratio was 0.485. So not even like, I mean, I don't know. Honestly, I don't really know too much about all of this to just sit here and like explain it like I do off the top of my head. I always end up having to go in and like study it because it's been a long time since I was in school. So I refresh myself before I come out here and talk. And so I'm not going to act like I can just say it off the top of my head because there's no way. That's why I show y'all where I go and look at stuff. I give y'all links to what I'm looking at so that you guys can go and see it the way that I'm seeing it. But this is just a mixture of like all of the DNA that was in Maddie's fingernail clippings. And it was just insane to me that the way that the state came about this was that whenever the grand jury stuff was being fought and this portion of it came up, they were like, but we only added it because he was inconclusive. And that meant was like, you know, that's like good for your client. So why would you want to get rid of that whenever we were just doing you a favor? But then it took the defense actually taking it to the correct laboratory to prove that his DNA wasn't there at all. And they came in here and they said it the way that they said it to give it a certain falsity. Because a lot of people are going to just think, oh, it's inconclusive. That means they can't tell either way. That means it's possible. And they're going to take everything else and they're going to jump it into all of that coincidence. Not looking deeper into the fact that it actually wasn't there whatsoever. So yeah, there's the two documents that you needed right there, KP, whenever it came to everybody's names and stuff too. Dago in here. Hey, Dago. I haven't seen you in here in forever. Actually, I saw them mentioning you the other day whenever I was going back through the live, and I saw it in the chat. I didn't even see you in here the other day. There you are. Hey, Dago. Okay, let's get back to this.
And yelled and put a bit of pressure on her, but I give her a hug and tell her thank you 100 times over for putting some finality in the last moments. It's not fair for parents to have to.
Mabbit, didn't they just complain again about how she leaked all this information to their minor children? They complained a lot about her, so that's an interesting take, but okay.
Wait 2 to 3 years to understand what happened to their kids.
I mean, I agree.
They talk about cruel and unusual punishment. I mean, nothing's crueler than to be told that you don't get to know what happened to your child, and all these other people in this courtroom get to know, and they're complete strangers. They don't even know your kid, and they get to know all about this. It's.
Does that not prove a point, though? Does that not prove my point? It's not fair. It's not. It's not fair at all that they are kept in the dark completely about what happened to their child. That's bullshit. But that also proves my entire point here. That the stuff that he's coming out here and saying is all stuff that he's gotten from before they had to stop talking to him. They know all of this information, and he's mad because he doesn't have that information. And he has every right to be mad. But to come out here and take it out on the defendant whenever you damn well know that you have questions and then blame it on the state is wild to me. Because I know that he's getting information from people that he's deeming credible. But the problem is that they're giving him information based off of empty information that he is giving to them. Stuff that that's not evidence. Stuff that's not being actually given at trial. Stuff that has nothing to do with anything. So he's getting answers based off of empty information. How is that doing him any good? That's how I see all of this. He's proving it. And it's not okay either way, because it's, again, he's not the only family that lost a child. This is not the only family that lost a child, but they're the only ones coming out here. He's the only one coming out here, really, and really pushing things that there's no proof for, causing a lot of issues. Because now look what's happened. Now there's this issue that, what is Steve going to do if this pushes the trial back? Is he going to blame the state for that too? Even though he's out here doing the exact same thing, even though he is out here verbatim saying the exact same things that Dateline says, proving his involvement as well. Is he going to try to take any responsibility? Is he going to apologize to the other families for his behavior? A serious question. I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm asking a serious question. I get that he's frustrated, but the way that he's doing this is very selfish.
I'm not a fan of that, but
I'm always hoping that when I learn things, I'm learning it second after you, obviously.
Not always.
I've always felt that it's just so unfair if family members hear from the press details that no one had shared with them prior. And it does happen. I mean, it does. It's not a perfect system. But this was a call you had with the coroner, right?
Yes, it was. Yeah, multiple calls. We had more than one.
Did she share any other details?
2.5 years ago.
Yeah, she did share some details, but those are, yeah, they have to come out to me and we have to talk about it. And then, so I don't want to say something that was just words on a phone, you know?
Just words on a phone. Those conversations were in December of 2022. Not to say that it's false information, but it tells you a timeline of where information stopped being given to the families. And it gives you an idea of what you need to take with a bigger grain of salt than you need to take other things with. And it's all very important because facts are all that matter. Facts are all that matter.
You know, I'd have to know more details before I could share all the stuff. But I guess the best I could do at the time was say that Kaylee's and Maddie's didn't match their damage. I wasn't trying to say one had more or one was other. I just was trying to say that they don't match. And I could share that information, but I still want.
See? You have to really listen to what he's saying. See? There's a reason why I wanted to listen to this. And no one can be mad at me for replaying somebody else's words and having an opinion about it. I'm not saying these things. I'm not the one saying the obvious here. I'm just listening to it.
Wanted to respect the courtroom and respect the process of this, but I'm not going to reward 2.5 years of dragging this on. You know, eventually you got to just let the truth come out, and you know, that's part of the reason why I start letting some things come out that I can, because Hippler's definitely opened up the sealed docs at a much better pace that makes you feel like that we'll at least get to this courtroom and have some idea what's going on. We don't have to sit there and get hit with unknowns over and over until you can't even process it anymore. I mean, the whole court process has nothing to do with the parents, has nothing to do with the victims. It's all about the person who did this and their rights. You know, the fastest way.
That's Judge Hippler you're talking about, who's taken over the case from Judge
John. Yeah, Judge Hitler.
Yeah.
Did y'all just hear it? Did y'all just hear it? I'll even put on the caption.
The whole court process has no.
I'm putting on the caption. Hopefully it actually does it. I didn't see if it actually does it, but watch his mouth. Like, I'll slow it down. There's no, listen.
Nothing to do with the parents, has nothing to do with the victims. It's all about the person who did this.
Which I will say, this part right here, I feel that the same way because I've dealt with a DV situation in court and it was all about him. They didn't care about our safety. They didn't care about what we wanted. So I agree with him about this, but just listen.
And their rights, you know. The fastest way.
That's Judge Hippler you're talking about, who's taken over the case from Judge.
It did it before he even said it. Did you see it? Oh, maybe that's still going to do it anyway. Hold on.
The fastest way.
That's Judge Hippler you're talking about, who's taken over the case from Judge John.
Yeah, Judge Hitler.
Yeah.
Okay, I need it to just be his mouth. Like, I don't even care about the damn thingies. I need y'all to see his mouth. I'm going to slow down again. This is just insane. I need to make this bigger. Listen.
Roman have.
John.
Yeah, Judge Hitler. Whole court process has.
Come on, where's it at? I need it again.
I appreciate
the details that.
Hold on, I got to go back.
Coroner, I had a conversation with the details that.
Be in that courtroom, because realistically, and
Judge Hippler you're talking about, who's taken over the case from Judge.
Okay. Show you one more time. This is the last time, I promise. I know he said it for sure. I'm just one more time.
John.
Yeah, Judge Hitler.
Yeah.
Yeah, he took
Yeah.
it over, and
And she looks down like, oh shit.
Vengeance, and the fastest way.
That's Judge. That's
Wash
Judge
your
Hippler
face.
you're talking about, who's taken over the case from Judge
Yeah,
John.
Judge Hitler.
Yeah.
He took it over, and he took it over with
She's like,
Vengeance,
ooh,
and
okay.
he had a mission. Were involved
shit.
in some
The case.
Isn't that wild? Why would you say that? Why would you say that you like the way that he's taking control, that everything has been drug out forever, and that now we finally have somebody in charge that's going to do the right thing, and that's who you compare him to? So do you like the man or not, Steve? I'm very confused. You know, I'm just a bit confuzzled a bit. I need some clarification. I don't even understand. He did. Yes, he did. Thank you for the $1.99. Thank you for the $19.99, Noel. I don't even understand why he just said that. Like, why would you just be okay? That's not funny. That's horrible. Why are we doing that? Don't do that, Steve. Don't do that.
Right?
Yeah, she did. And I'm gonna let them have the opportunity to. As I told them,
See where I was at.
The bat process started. Yeah,
he was going to get off. Like you.
They're still not public. I knew.
Oh, hold on.
Yeah, there was fear. There was. What can I do?
Where was I? Give me a second. I got carried away, y'all. I just found that so crazy. Like, I just cannot believe that.
Delivered to her.
That's so wild.
Would have killed.
Okay, that's the wounds. We haven't got to that part yet, did we?
The courtroom and have some courtroom, and before I could share all this,
okay, we're right
say
here.
that courtroom and respect.
Okay.
The process of this, but I'm not going to reward 2.5 years of dragging this on. Eventually you got to just let the truth come out, and that's part of the reason why I start letting some things come out that I can, because Hippler's definitely opened up.
See, he said it right there.
The sealed docs at a much better pace, and he had a mission to get this thing back on track, because realistically, the person who did this over and over, that makes you on the sealed docs at a much better pace, that makes you feel like that we'll at least get to this courtroom and have some idea what's going on. We don't have to sit there and get hit with unknowns over and over until you can't even process it anymore.
Unknowns, exactly.
The whole court process has nothing to do with the parents, has nothing to do with the victims. It's all about the person who did this and their rights. The fastest way.
That's Judge Hippler you're talking about, who's taken over the case from Judge John.
Judge Hitler.
Yeah.
He took it over, and he took it over with Vengeance. And
this is true. Rose says he got the name and salute from his brother. It's a family thing. It sure did. I'm not going to show the picture again, but I showed it earlier, and I showed it, I think, in the last live I did. Or you can go over to Heather Fitzgerald's channel and look at her community tab. There's a picture of his brother Nathan. Just go take a look. Go take a look. You'll understand.
He had a mission to get this thing back on track, because realistically, we went 2 years without a schedule. I mean, they would literally be in that courtroom and saying, what do we got to do to get to a schedule? And then they'd say, well, you're going to have to make decisions on the schedule. And then we would leave, and they'd say, well, we're going to have to make a schedule. And so we're not doing that anymore. We got somebody here who can make decisions right there in the courtroom. And I appreciate that. And it's something that we had to have. We had to.
Do you?
Have somebody come in there and start getting through this and setting some timeline. So that's a positive. But
I think you mentioned some of the details that the coroner. I had a conversation with the coroner early in the case, and she shared with us that Xana had some very severe defensive wounds. Like, Xana had fought very, very aggressively with this killer. And I think that the coroner may have shared something with you about some of the injuries that Kaylee had, right?
Yeah.
This part's real sad.
She did. And she was struck in the face. Her nose was broken. There was multiple hits, from what I've been told, in try to be careful with my words, but the blows that he sustained, delivered to her, would have killed her.
See?
Really?
Yeah.
See, and he might say it here. I don't remember if he says it here, but I know that a lot of people were saying that on the Facebook page, in the comments, they were also saying that there was like indentions of like knuckles in her, I guess maybe either her face or maybe her bones. I don't exactly remember what they said. So some people were thinking that maybe whoever would have done that maybe would have used like brass knuckles, but those also leave wounds on the user. And we didn't see any on Bryan's hands. And that selfie was like hours after, the crime took place. So
yeah.
If the knife wounds hadn't, the blows would have?
Yeah.
Was there any other detail that the coroner shared?
Yeah, there's definitely other details, but I'm going to let them have the opportunity to release that information, because I don't want to overstep them, but it sounds like it's about to come out. So I'm looking forward to that.
Anything
Hopefully
that you can share that wouldn't compromise the case?
That's the thing. It's why I always ask for more communication, because it's things like this where we're like, you can tell us a safe thing to bring up, and you can tell us when this stuff's going to come out, or you could just let us figure it out on our own. Because I told them, you met a father who's not going to, I'm not going to remain silent. Not over.
He just confessed to everything that I've been saying. He's saying right now it's the state's fault that he is out here pushing false information and saying whatever he wants to say because they're not telling him anything. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? I don't think I'm wrong. Hey, Dago. Yeah, I don't think I'm wrong. I feel like he literally just like admitted that. It's the state's fault. They can tell us what to say, or we can just come out here and say whatever we want.
For this, my daughter would expect me to stand up for her, and that's what I'm going to do. And I'll go to jail if that's what it comes down to. If you're going to arrest me because you need me to be silent and think I'm going to protect the guy who killed my kid, I'm never going to protect him.
And that's my problem. I understand that. But he doesn't have the information. He's admitting that he doesn't have the information. So how can he come out here and protect someone that we know is lying? Someone that he knows has been lying to him. Dylan, okay? I've already said the story 1,000 times. As a matter of fact, Dago knows this story because he was the only person that I was talking to back then whenever Daniel told me this, and I confided in Dago about this. Do you remember whenever I told you that Daniel told me that at the memorial that Dylan and Bethany were actually there and that he wanted to speak to them, and that he went back there and Bethany took off, and then Dylan said she didn't hear anything, but that was actually false because Jack Decor heard her on the phone saying she saw somebody in black, saying that she was awake and saw things and blah, 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 blah. So Steve knew then and there that Dylan was lying. Dago was the one I confided this in. Dago's known this entire time. That's why I have issues with him coming out and protecting Dylan, with the family coming out and protecting Dylan. Because they've known. They've known the lies. He's out here protecting the liar instead of looking at what's actually happening, taking a step back and making sure that he's not A, being manipulated, and B, going down the wrong road that he's going to regret. I'm just saying. That's not okay. That's not okay that he knows that he was lied to by them the whole time and he's just out here babying them. That's why I really hope that there's something in the shadows happening here, because for that behavior to just be how they're handling this, I don't understand. If I knew, I've said this before, I'm going to say it again, I would be a threat to these kids. All right. I would be a threat to them. if I were one of these family members, knowing that they'd been lying to me this whole time. That's just the truth. If this were me, the second I knew that they were lying to me and knew that they were over 18, consider me a threat. I'm just saying.
I knew that he was guilty, and that wasn't right off the bat. It took me a considerable amount of information and facts before I made a decision that, all right, they got the right guy. And
what facts, Steve? The fact that you told everyone for 2 years now that his devices touch the King Road Wi-Fi, but you just admitted over on Drunk Turkey that you were wrong, Mr. IT. That fact. The fact that you keep pushing that he was stalking them, but the state themselves had to come out and be like, nope. And no, it's not the definition. We went over that here, so I'm not going to listen to that either. That fact. What about the social media stuff? The state even had to come out and be like, nope. This is my issue. He's getting information from people that don't have all the facts. Therefore, they're giving him bullshit information. And out of disparity, he's accepting it because he doesn't want this case to go unsolved, because I think that he actually knows more than what he's letting on about the truth. That's just my opinion. I don't know. I feel like it goes a lot deeper with him than a lot of people think. And maybe he's just handling it really, 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 really not okay.
And then at that point, it was just, what can I do to help? How can we get this over, get this process started, let people know that the evidence and the facts are there, and then we can just get this done. Because
there was a time I did have a conversation with you, a couple of conversations, I'd say like a year ago, where I feel like you really were concerned that he was going to get off. Like you were starting to really question the evidence, the case against him, the case that Ann Taylor was building. Is that accurate to say that you started to really fear?
Yeah, there was fear. There was such a lack of leadership in the courtroom. There was things that were just going all over the place, and nothing was really getting done. So yeah, I got nervous there. I had insight on things that are still not public. I knew a lot of different things that I just didn't understand why you would hide such strong evidence. And so
I don't know, maybe for the same reason why they would hide someone's strong alibi. Do you remember saying that, Steve? What happened to that, Steve? Come on.
You start wondering, is something else going on? Do they just want this case to go away to where, let's just get it out of the community, protect the businesses, and once we're out of the community, we'll make a plea bargain and keep everything sealed. Maybe once the plea bargain's done, some of it comes out, but by then nobody even cares. And that's just a father just trying to.
I just don't understand how he sees how this case, still to this day, regardless of how many times he comes on camera or not, has attention, why he keeps acting like that's in jeopardy here. This is one of the most insane, make no sense cases that probably people have ever seen in their entire lives. Regardless of if he comes out and says anything, no one is going to stop looking at this for years. Years. There's way too much here. So I don't know if he really feels that way or if he's just using that as an excuse, because there's just no way that he actually feels like that. This is everywhere. This is across the planet. I mean, aliens from like outer space are watching this shit happen for real, okay?
Struggle with how this process works, and maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was nervous, or just wasting my time worrying about things that weren't going to happen. But I didn't know. I just knew that a case shouldn't be going in the direction that it was going, and I was like, we got to do something. And I feel like it got back, but it took leaving that community, which was something we fought. We wanted to keep it there. So, but in the end, is what was needed.
Let's talk about this detail that you've learned.
See, look, he's shaking his leg. You can see him shaking. That's not how he acts on whenever he talks to Chris McDonough. He acts like whenever he's over there, he says that it's unfair still that community didn't get the chance to da-da-da-da-da. But they're not really part of the community. So I really never really understood why he felt that way. They're from hours away. Everyone that, this happened to were temporary. college students. They weren't going to probably stay around there at all, regardless of how close family was. This was just college. I mean, even Steve said so himself, like for holidays, it goes from being 90K to 20K. To 20K is the community. This happened to what we're supposed to believe the university, which is a bunch of temporary. So how is it the community whenever everyone involved is just a passerby, technically, in community verbiage? I never really quite understood that. Plus, you know what else I've always felt? I feel like this speaks volumes, and some people disagree, and that's fine. But whenever Chief Fry like ran for sheriff, which is a vote-in situation, and he didn't win, I feel like Latah County spoke about how they felt about the way that the case was handled by not voting him for sheriff. So maybe it was a mistake to move it out of Latah County. I don't know. We'll see how this ends up going. But I found that pretty telling. Thank you for the $10, Danny. Hope you've been doing good. Jules, thank you for commanding enough respect that you don't need mods for attracting a mostly open-minded group of adults. Thank you, Jules. On me for tomorrow, stay caffeinated. I found another flavor of that Nescafe. It's a tan color. Best believe I'm going to be getting it. But I need to use my other ones first because I can't be wasteful. I'm trying to teach my kids not to be as wasteful. So I can't like just keep on buying stuff just because I want it. I have to use the rest of it first. But I'm going to be getting this other flavor. So best believe you're going to hear about it because it's just super beyond delicious. Okay, let's continue.
About Bryan Kohberger. We were all shocked to see the photograph, the selfie that was snapped just hours after the murders in front of his shower. But you've learned what he did after that. What was it?
Yeah, I learned about a tally of some girls that were having conflicts and feeling like he was doing things that were making them very nervous, following them outside of the classroom, standing in front of the door, forcing them to go around.
I'm just going to go ahead and pause because I can't help myself. I'm going to let y'all know now. He jumps all over the place right here.
Around him.
Ooh. He jumps all over the place right here and instantly starts talking about like the school and all these people that don't like Bryan, just at the end of the day to say something that we pretty much know is not true. So what he's going to say here at the end is what he is claiming proves something was wrong because Bryan apparently called in to school, didn't go to school on the 5th, like the next day on the Monday. He didn't go to school. That's not true because all the students that he had in class said that he was there that next day and that they didn't see anything wrong with him. He didn't have any wounds on him. He didn't have any Band-Aids, no cuts, no bruises, no redness, no limps, no, I can't put enough weight on my arm to carry my books, nothing. But when it comes to missing school, he had like a doctor's appointment on the 17th and somebody at the reception desk came out and talked then. So what he's going to end up saying here is something that we've pretty much been told all along really isn't true. So it's hard to understand exactly how much of the information he's getting from other people is legitimate information and how much of it is like stuff that people are just maybe telling him if they're telling him anything at all that, you know, just because they don't like him. Because this is going to come from people that apparently had issues with Bryan that he was supposed to be staying away from. Well, if he's doing what he's being asked and he's staying away from you, then why would you know if he was at school or not to be able to keep a tally, to be able to tell them if he was at school, if you're supposed to just not be able to even see him because you want him to leave you alone? On top of everyone else already coming out way back in the day and saying he was here and he was fine. So that's another thing with all of this. He comes out with a lot of information about Bryan. And I think no one said Bryan's perfect. He's got a lot of issues. I mean, he's got a dark past. He's got some depression issues and all, we've seen it. It's all out there in the public. His Tapatalk posts and all kinds of stuff. We know about his food issues and his substance use before. And we know that there's some darkness there. But it seems like Steve just kind of took all of the rumors and all of the things that were being said because of the current theme and just kind of ran with as much negativity as he possibly could because he could not get facts whenever he was in desperate need of them. That's why I feel like no matter what you really ask him about this stuff, it always ends up sort of going back to that. It always ends up going back to like falsities and rumors that he's getting from some sort of third party from something. That's just going to cause like so much problem. Like this is going to be such a big problem at the end of the day. It's going to be a big issue.
Basically forcing interactions, and they're just trying to do everything to avoid him. So how I understand it, they communicated this to management structure there. They said document things. They started documenting that this tally that they put together. And from that,
what is that called? You're saying that a tally? What was that?
I thought it was called like the Bryan tally is what it was described to me as.
I'm not sure. Is this the place he works?
Yes. This is the classroom in which he's, a teacher aide in,
That's the name of the classroom. I hadn't heard the name before, but that's what this is. So this is basically the classroom where he is working. He's making everybody feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. And the tally is when they went to, I don't know if it was HR, but they went to people in the school and said, hey, I noticed something, this girl knows something, but it's still kind of hearsay. So then they're saying, document it, the time, the place, the things, a witness, those type of things. So they did do that. And that was.
So this was the investigation that they talked about, because Ann Taylor mentioned this in court, and there's a document about it where this stuff was documented. There was an investigation done by WSU, and Bryan was found to have done nothing wrong. So again, I don't know what these girls might have had against him. These apparently 2 people had against him, but we've had other people come out that were in that class that had major ass crushes on him. We even did a review of one of the girls that had a huge crush on Bryan. I think her name was her name Cassie? She was a student. She did an interview on some podcast. I can't remember exactly what video it was. It was a long time ago. But you could like hear the way that she would talk about him in her voice. She would smile thinking about him in his little khaki pants. All right. Like she had a thing for him. And then we find out that some other lady, some other girl in the apartment complex had a thing for him too, and told him that she wanted to be with him, and he rejected her. And then he's going to pool parties and getting married girls' numbers from how it sounds from the like stories that we've been hearing. And then this other chick literally hands him her phone and he puts his number in it. He gives the phone back. She takes the phone. She texts him, Holly. I mean, come on. How much of an incel are we supposed to believe this dude really is? If the story made sense and we didn't have all these stories of him getting all these chicks' numbers and having people, that he's having to push away and be like, no, I don't want you. How are we supposed to believe this dude's an incel? Make it make sense. At least try to make it make sense. Don't tell us all these things that we're supposed to think are negative about him when it really just makes your story sound like shit. Make it make sense.
What's going on? And that's how we found out that he missed school Monday after taking that photo, where he doesn't look sick to me. But what does that give him? That gives him.
Honestly, I would argue with you. He looks like absolute crap in that photo. They put so much filter into that thing. He melts into the damn linoleum in the shower. Everything is the same color. Everything is the same color. But this is apparently not true. In the very, 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 very beginning, people were coming out and they were saying, well, he was at school and everything was fine. He didn't have any cuts, no bruises, no nothing. Now we see a photo that literally proves he had no photo, like no bruises, no cuts, no nothing on his hands. He apparently did so much damage to Kaylee that just what he did to her head alone would have taken her life away, and he doesn't have a single wound on him. I'm sorry, but that just doesn't make sense to me. For someone who's supposed to have some sort of dexterity issue, that doesn't make sense to me.
A whole day to go over figuring out how they're responding to what he's done. So he could sit there, gloat, and Google search, do the same things we were doing to try to figure out what was going on.
Or continue, if he's the guilty party, continue cleaning up, continue making sure that there's not a trace left.
In 2 to 4 minutes? We just want to skip over the fact they're trying to tell us this shit took place in 2 to 4 minutes. And he apparently had a vacuum. Y'all are out of y'all's minds for real.
Well, I hope and I suspect that.
Doesn't he say that people that actually ask questions are like drug heads or some shit? He said something real derogatory about people like me and people like us over on Daniel's show. I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was just horrible. And I'm just like, really, bro? We're the ones taking things. Y'all are the ones hallucinating some shit, okay? This is not Hollywood. So considering this is not Hollywood, how are we supposed to believe that he did all of this and apparently sat down in a chair too and took time to carve stuff that he shouldn't have been carving when it comes to Ethan? You know? So how are we supposed to believe he did all of that plus all the damage to Kaylee that would have taken her life without a blade in 2 to 4 minutes and carrying a vacuum? No.
The searches that he did before the 911 call will do him in.
Okay, I really hope this is actually true. I waited for this forever. This would have been it for me, bro. I don't give it. You know what? I can't even say that. I actually can't say that, but it would have tipped the shit out of it. Okay, if he would have searched up something on Google before the 911 call for real, and if that does come out, that's gonna tip it. It's gonna tip it a lot. It's gonna tip it a lot. But what ended up coming out on Dateline was that the very first time that he apparently ever Googled the murders was on 11/16 at like 9 something in the morning. So that's why I'm like, did Steve get the script and just not get it right whenever he came out here like regurgitating things? Because according to what he said it was Googled right before the 911 call. Dateline, who is now a proven leak situation. Now, we don't know what was leaked. That's a fact. We don't know what exactly is leaked and what's false information. But we do know that this is a leaked situation that is now being addressed by the court. So considering that, you have to ask a lot of questions. You have to ask a lot of questions.
The activities that he did before anyone knew what happened, those will be the final responding to.
Let's listen to the way that he said it one more time.
That gives him a whole day to like go over figuring out how they're responding to what he's done. So he could sit there, gloat.
He's gonna say it again. I go back not far enough.
Google search, do the same things we were doing to try to figure out what was going on.
Or continue, if he's the guilty party, continue cleaning up, continue making sure that there's not a trace left.
Well, I hope and I suspect that the searches that he did before the 911 call will do him in.
Again, I don't know if this is what he means, but according to Dateline, who is now a proven leak addressed in the court, he did not search the crimes until 11/16 at 9 something in the morning. And someone actually brought up to me in a comment, and this sounds pretty about right, that's about the time that the press conferences started. So news was already going around. And honestly, I say that it would have tipped it a lot because we know that the girls were on social media. We don't know what the hell they were doing. We have no idea what was actually going on there. Okay. We don't. We know that they were on social media. We know that they never slept. We know that they took photos and videos, that they edited those photos and videos, did other things with those photos and videos, and then deleted said photos and videos. That's in the forensic download of their phones. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's what's in it. Okay. So we don't really know if things were shared, if pictures were taken, or do you see this? Is this real? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Or somebody gets a call and they need to see what's happening because they need to assess the situation without actually stepping into the crime scene. So there's videos and stuff getting taken. We don't know, do we? We don't. So what's going to end up coming out whenever all of the rest of that information comes out? And there's a big possibility that people were getting information sent to them. There was always some sort of base truth to Kim's story. Whenever everything went crazy and she started talking about blood in the washing machine and all kind of other crazy stuff, that's where I was like, girl, you are off your rocker. And then whenever she came out and said she never saw the messages, I had more issues. Then whenever she said her kids wouldn't talk to the cops, I had even more issues. But now we have Snapchat. The base story made sense to me, especially since we already knew they summoned friends over. We knew the possibilities. We just didn't know how far it all went. So to say that it wasn't a huge possibility or an impossibility, that if information started going out, that maybe he wouldn't have been part of people over at WSU to have maybe heard said information. We have to remember these schools were very much involved with each other. They had like friends were back and forth, proven trails of people already. So it would have tipped a lot. It would have tipped a shit ton. But I would have still have had to consider that probability because we already know that to be a huge one.
The activities that he did before anyone knew what happened, those will be the final nail in this case.
Well, for a criminology PhD, doesn't seem very smart. I mean, who buys
I was going off and missed something. Thank you for the $10, Duckman. Quacking at you. May the truth prevail in Idaho. That's all I want. I'm telling you, if they could come out and just make one puzzle piece fit, one puzzle piece, all of this energy would be devoted to that. Okay. But until then, I can't. I'm sorry. I believe in innocent until proven guilty. But if you're guilty and it's worth it, then you deserve the DP. See, there's a middle. People need to learn how to be in the middle. It's fun.
Knife and a sheath and a sharpener online and has it delivered to your parents' house. And who goes after a killing where the sheath is left behind and the murder weapons disposed of to find a replacement knife and sheath online? Who does that?
Okay, so the little click history stuff is interesting too. Another thing, the 15th, that's pretty soon after the murders. It's not something that I just glanced by, okay? It's interesting. But then again, I have to also consider the fact of what he's doing. He's a criminology student. That position has a referral issue situation, something he has to actually do for the police department that is required. That's the stupid R word I was looking for. A requirement with the police department. So it's not out of the realm that there were conversations being had. We don't know all of the associations that he had. We don't. He had already been there for a few months. He could have gotten to know police officers. There could have been people that he went and had coffee with for real. Okay. We know he asked the guy in Pennsylvania, who's to say that's the first officer he asked to go get coffee. He obviously liked to ask questions. Okay. Huge possibility that there's just conversations going around. That's very early on in the case before anybody was really trying to shut everything down. We were just trying to figure out who everybody was. So for him to have heard that there was that around and went and looked at it and been this is something sort of similar to whatever, cool, whatever. That doesn't really mean too much to me. I need specifics. If we find out there's no connections to nothing, I'm going to need a little bit more clarification. But at the end of the day, like Jennings says, they are not coming out and they have yet to tell us if this damn thing was bought with a sheath that has that USMC logo on it. They are not telling us that. And I don't quite understand that. If they know that that's what they need to quit the chaos, then why not just put that in the documents whenever they're talking about it? Why not just throw it in there with matching USMC logo? Why? Mr. Transparent, can we be a little bit more transparent so that we don't have to keep asking all these questions? I mean, still, I would still need more. Him not being able to be proven to be at the location is a problem for me. And people can say, oh, they've proven it, but they haven't. There's a reason why a man who literally teaches people how to do this for a living is putting his entire career on the line and working for the other side of the fence for free. We cannot just sit back and act like that doesn't mean something. If you can, then I'm sorry. You need to learn how to read the room. Context clues. Very important.
I think even if you're somewhat intelligent, your human instinct, you start racking your brain and you started worrying what if if the cops knock on my door and say, well, we couldn't help but notice you bought one of these. Where's yours at? You wanted to have one. You want to be like, here it is right here. It's in my fishing tackle box, some story he was going to make up. But
that makes sense. Just buying it yourself online. I mean, online purchases is 101 in criminology. Who is this guy? How could he possibly be in a PhD program?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the question, isn't it? Why is it so easy to believe that somebody who's been able to accomplish so much would do some, not just one stupid mistake, but all of these stupid mistakes? That's another reason why this story just really doesn't make a lot of sense. Not turning off the phone until after you leave the apartment and leaving the knife sheath. Maybe. Probably not, but maybe. all the other things. They're trying to say that he drove around forever and planned all these things while also saying that he didn't, all these different times, which is also like honestly kind of strange because they're acting like none of those things are true, but then also trying to say that that's how they're going to prove that he's at that location because all the rest of that stuff is supposed to prove all those things that they've already told us isn't true. I'm sorry. It just doesn't make sense. I just don't understand what they're going to present here. I've really been trying to figure it out. I'm not trying to have all of these damn questions, and I'm not the only one with questions either. That's the thing. I'm not the only one. Damn. It's such a mess.
And but I've heard that he tried to hide that with a gift card that was given to him. He thought maybe he could avoid the transaction by using a gift card and then deleting all of his history and deleting all of the proof that it was associated with this count.
Okay. Now, again, I could be wrong. I'm just going back on what we were told in court, and feel free to go back to the hearing and listen to it yourself. I'm not going to pull it up right here. Okay. But the way that Eliza Massoth stood up and explained this, I believe it was the January hearings. I could be wrong on that, but I believe it was January. She was speaking about the Excel spreadsheet that they had from Amazon. And on this Excel spreadsheet were both the purchases of the gift card and the purchase of the K-bar knife set thing he bought, okay, or that was bought. This is a family account. For one, family Amazon account. He is someone who wants to teach cloud-based forensics. Do you really think that he is going to buy an Amazon gift card on his own Amazon account and then use that same exact gift card that he bought on his own Amazon account with his own banking information to then buy the K-bar knife that he plans in 8 months to use or however long to use to do something cray-cray once he gets over to Washington? How am I supposed to believe that? This is a man that we're being told expected basically like perfection out of the students that he was grading. So how am I supposed to believe that he would make all of those mistakes and still be able to apply those standards and still be told like, you're doing too much. You need to basically expect less of them. Not that he was incorrect on how he was grading them, but that he needed to basically like lighten up is the story anyway. Yeah, I'm sorry, that doesn't make sense.
Where did you hear that?
This part right here is interesting because, like I just mentioned, it's funny. I could literally say exactly where we heard it in the courtroom, and it was the January. It had to have been the January one. It had to have been the January one. Maybe not. Anyway, he doesn't even remember like how he knows. He was in the courtroom when this was being said, but she also has no idea about it whatsoever. And she's been out here like reporting on his Amazon purchases, reporting on the gift card, reporting on all of that stuff. And she has no idea what he's talking about. She has no idea where this information came from either. That's the part that I found the most interesting. That part right there.
Criminology? Who is this guy? How could he possibly be in a PhD program?
At the top of my head, I don't know where I heard the gift card. Yeah, I don't.
Watch her face.
Deleting all of his history and deleting all of the proof that it was associated with this count. But
where did you hear that?
Look, no clue.
There's some documents out there that talk about him deleting his Amazon history. And,
but the gift card part.
But you can't do that. I mean, as far as I can tell, and I've tried on my computer, you can't just go in and like delete your history. You can like clear your cache and your cookies and all your history and stuff on like your devices and your browsers and blah, blah, blah. But as far as I've been able to tell personally, you really just cannot go in and delete your purchases off of Amazon. Once they're there, they're there. Like even like your subscribe and save stuff, even if you cancel your subscribe and save, they like stay in your history for like all of forever that you had it at one time or another. Everything that even stuff that you've refunded and you don't even have access to anymore or whatever is all there. You can get an invoice, all the details. So
where'd that come from?
You know, it's been 2.5 years, to be honest. At the top of my head, I don't
No, it wasn't, Steve. It was like a couple months ago.
know where I heard the gift card. Yeah, I don't know.
Not sure if it's authorities or if it's just sort of in the reporting sort of ether.
Not even sure. I would definitely not say the authorities, because I don't want to
Yeah.
tie their hands to say that they gave me something that, you know, isn't an official doc. But yeah, I definitely heard about the gift card. But like I said, I've heard of a lot of things because I've had a lot of ears and a lot of eyes. And
I heard about the gift card because I have a lot of ears and a lot of eyes. You were in the courtroom, sir. You were in the courtroom whenever Eliza Massoth said these things. You do not have this information because of something that you did yourself. You have this information because you sat in the courtroom and listened to the hearing.
I did a lot of calls, and I answered a lot of calls, investigated, talked to WSU employees, talked to UI employees, talked to...
So people need to be fired. Did you hear that? People need to be fired.
Basically anybody who's willing
Yes.
to help a dad out. And there was a lot of people in the community that were willing to help me.
What else
And lose their jobs.
do you know that I don't know? That at this point you're sort of at the leading edge of it, and where the fountain of information is starting to flow. The gag order we are soon to see pretty much gone. The documents are dropping.
Hopefully.
But what else is it that you know that we don't know?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what everyone
See, Steve, please just stop, bro.
knows. I just know that there is other aspects of the case that they want to drop that hammer in the courtroom, and that's where we're at. I can't share too much, but I think it's coming out. I think Hitler's strategy is, by the day we go into the courtroom, some percentage, and probably in his head, is going to be out. And I've kind of heard that came from the media pressure. The media themselves, who had a challenge to the gag order, basically said, you know, this is not something that is in law. Like, gag orders are for national security. Gag orders are not usually for...
Gag orders are for national security.
Everyday crime in the state. I mean,
Well, they're getting more
Okay.
popular, Steve. And let me tell you, I have been on a tear about the increased use and the broad range of the gags over these cases. And there's always the same excuse. We've got to protect the rights of the defendant. I get that. But if O.J. Simpson could get a verdict of not guilty with the amount of coverage on that case, arguably there's never been another case that's been as highly covered as O.J.
Two things. Law and Crime approached me to do something about O.J. Simpson, and I turned it down. I think I showed you guys the emails a while back. I felt that was weird. I don't know much about that case because I've never really cared to look into that case. I'll just say this, that the second thing is this. I don't think you can compare this case to a celebrity case like O.J. Simpson's case. Bryan Kohberger is just a nobody college student, TA guy. O.J. Simpson was like hella famous. This was going on at the time that the Menendez brothers thing was apparently happening, which I didn't know that until watching like the stuff on Netflix about their case, because they like show a clip of the boys and him being in jail together, which is weird. I don't think you can compare the two. OJ had money. He had hella money and paid like, you know, for hella attorneys. Bryan Kohberger has a public defender. So I don't really think that you can compare that situation. The negative press is going to definitely like affect the two cases differently. I don't really think that you can compare them at all.
And Michael Jackson, same thing. There was a case, and Beretta. I mean, case after case after case, you can say highly publicized cases have still returned not guilty verdicts. So it's hard to convince me that a lot of publication can damage the defendant. Sometimes it can work in their favor.
Is she just saying that because she doesn't want to take her part of the responsibility? Serious question.
Yeah, for sure. I believe if you're innocent, it 100% helps you. And even if there's not a case that is very strong, the facts, as stuff comes out, you should be able to combat it.
Did you see how I'm not going to go back because it takes me forever to get to the right spot, but did y'all see how he just like swallowed real hard whenever he was talking about, not having a lot of evidence, not having a real strong case? That's kind of like proof to me that he kind of knows that's exactly what this is. I just wish he'd be more honest about it instead of doing this.
I don't know what a gag order really does, but to protect somebody who's guilty. I mean, if the facts of the case, as they come out, if those make you look guilty, you want silence. You want to hide it. You want to keep it. You want to keep it out. But most people would just be like, throw them out, and I'll prove them. I'll knock them. I'll knock them out of the park is inaccurate.
The fear is the fear is the poisoning of the jury pool with facts that may not qualify to be entered into evidence in the trial, and yet there they are. They know it anyway because of the media. But I keep going back to OJ. Plenty of things were suppressed in the OJ case, and it was all over the press. Karen Reed is another case. There's a case that is at retrial now.
Just because I'm curious, because I'm not, like, I know about Karen Reed, but I'm not following Karen Reed. How many of you guys, put a 1 in the chat if y'all are following that case? Just because I'm curious how many of you guys are in here that do.
And it is a constant. I mean, there's docu-series, there's dramatic series, there's all sorts of coverage on Karen Reed, and she had a hung jury. So we'll see what happens this time. But I'm not one of those people who believes that a gag order serves American jurisprudence. We pride ourselves on having such a pristine, open, honest, and transparent system of justice in this country that everybody gets a fair defense. And if you're guilty, away you go. But you get your defense, you get your day in court, and that's something we should all be very proud of. But is there a detail? Is there a fact pattern, an area in this case that you got blind spots and you are waiting? It is the specific area that you want resolved the most, details that you're waiting for the most?
Good question. I don't think I heard this.
I've always questioned why there wasn't more warrants on certain things. Things that have came out. I follow the warrants because the warrants I feel like are like the cheat code to figuring out where the truth is.
Mm-hmm.
When you hear these suspects, but there's no warrant related to them, then you can kind of toss those out. So I've made inquiries on certain things like, why have we not heard a warrant about this or that? Maybe accounts for my child, things that I know personally about. So those are just trying to make sure that.
See, okay. I agree with him to an extent, because now we've gotten just to the point in the case to where so many things have now been removed as trial evidence that we've seen how much of it doesn't even matter. And we've also seen a couple of things that we didn't even know that they actually filed warrants for that were part of the self-authenticating evidence list that has now been dwindled down to, there's a lot of stuff that was taken out of that. So yeah, I mean, that's why I feel like he has to know this. Like, he has to know how much of this has been taken out, how much of this that they were originally telling us and all of the story that they were originally trying to build, and how much of it, every single time there's a huge new drop of information, so much of it just gets taken away, in giant chunks. It's absolutely fascinating. It's that they think it's still standing, but I think it's Lieutenant Dan, in my opinion.
The case is perfect and everything is right. It's probably just me worrying for no reason, but those are the type of things that I'll ask Shannon to reach out and say, hey, can we make sure that they know about all these accounts and clarify everything.
But there isn't something forensic.
But like we've seen, not everything matters to the crime itself. So just because Steve might think there's certain accounts that exist doesn't mean that those accounts are part of the evidence. But what I would really love to know is what the frick accounts does he think his kid has that would have anything at all to do with this crime? That's the big question. What account, Steve, do you think matters here? Because wouldn't that mean that he has some sort of connection that he can prove to something? If he's so concerned for something very specific not being asked for, what is the connection that he thinks that it has? Or is he just talking out his butt? Because it's hard to tell. I'm not trying to be an asshole. It's just the truth.
Forensically, I personally keep thinking, how did the killer get out the sliding door of the kitchen, get to the car, get into the car, get to wherever the dumping ground was to get rid of the bloody clothing, the knife, and all the other implements of the crime, and get back to an apartment. And if it's Kohberger's apartment, all without leaving a forensic trail that was, a beacon of blinking lights, because that didn't exist. And I keep wondering, what did that killer do to hide those tracks so well?
You're right. It didn't exist because they didn't know shit about shit until after 12/19, at least not Moscow. And everything that Moscow was looking at was not leading them to Bryan Kohberger. Nothing. That's already been proven. So she's not wrong. There wasn't any just huge siren saying 3 meters this way, take a left, and you're going to find this spot of blood, and 3 inches to the right, you're going to find this one, and then outside, you're going to find this, and then, oh, there's a turn down here. There was none of that, because whatever they were following was not leading them to Bryan Kohberger. It was taking them out of Moscow towards Troy and Kendrick and all these other directions that they're not even telling us Bryan went. So what happened to all of that? How are we supposed to believe that this wasn't completely just created out of nothing and completely reverse engineered out of literally anything they possibly could grab, when they had all that time that Moscow was looking at everything and they didn't see anything that pointed to him until 12/19? How does that work?
It's what if I said the killer actually wrote what he would do? Because Bryan wrote a paper saying how he would go into a crime scene and not leave any evidence in that crime scene. So I think you just need to read what he wrote. He wrote exactly
his homework assignment about how to be like a crime scene evidence collector and do it properly and follow all of the protocols that should have been followed by Moscow. That paper. Okay.
Exactly what he did, and he probably did more. Who knows what he learned in that Reddit post where he interviewed criminals that got caught or got away with different crimes, and I believe he incorporated those into his night of action. So I think he came to that slider, opened it up whatever way he did, left it open, left some things outside.
See, this is interesting as shit to me, because I want to know where he got this. He said this, I think, in Daniels 2. And his basic theory here is that Bryan came in the house through the slider, like he just said, and left his So Say Kill kit outside on the back porch with the slider open, and went upstairs and was going like back and forth to the kill kit to get whatever he needed, and da-da-da-da-da. It's like a whole journey in his head. And then at some point, Xana is seen by Bryan. And then it's because he's going back to his kill kit for something, and it was just like a whole accident or whatever. And then Ethan's actually asleep. Like, he has like a whole thing. But where do you get that the kill kit was just like outside? Like, where are you getting this intricate detail in order to even come up with this if the state's not telling you anything? If the state's not telling you details, if you're so desperate for information that you're going out and finding what you claim to be information yourself and coming out here and speaking about it because the state's not telling you what to say. Where are you getting this whole theory about a kill kit being outside and all this up? What? Too much Howard Bloom, whatever. Okay, that's where all this came from. He's been hanging out with Howie way too much since Shannon got a hold of Howie for them to work on something together, and he's allowing the way that Howie writes stuff to get into his head, and he's just like going and grabbing onto stuff because what? Kill kit outside, left the door open, back and forth, in 2 to 4 minutes. Is that what the detectives did in their run test? Did they do stuff upstairs and then run downstairs to the kill kit outside and run back and forth and do that in 2 to 4 minutes? I'd love to see it. It's just wild.
That slider. Part of his kit, part of his plastic bag, whatever it was, went in, did his thing. Was covered in a Dickie outfit from neck to toe.
Let me just stop again. This is coming from the fact that at Kohberger's apartment in the bathroom, there was a Walmart receipt with a Dickies tag connected to it. Now, what's important here is that in the self-authenticating records, they had information about Bryan for Walmart first put in there, and then it was removed. So they're not putting any security footage, no transaction histories. There's nothing for this Dickies situation regarding what we already know, Dickie's Walmart receipt in the apartment, which is where Steve's getting this information from, because again, the state's not talking to them. He said it several times already. He's taking that and not paying attention to the documents that now show Walmart stuff has been removed. So once the Walmart Dickies stuff is removed, then what's Bryan wearing now, Steve? Now that that's out the way, and now that that's not going to be proven and shown at trial because all of the Walmart evidence has now been removed from the self-authentication list, what was Bryan wearing? Let's see what he says next.
Had this hood thing on that they also got that coming to his house. If you attack this guy, you wouldn't scratch him. You wouldn't be able to get your hands on him. The only place would be his eyes, and gloves on.
Isn't that balaclava, whatever donut sounding mask? Isn't it like cloth? See, that's what like always bothered me about the mask situation before, is because if it is the one that they're claiming, then not only does Dylan know what that mask is because she has a baby powdery looking pink one that she has photos of herself in, but you can definitely get scratched through that thing. It's just material. There's no protective layer in that.
I think people underestimate if you know what you're doing and you want to go in there and you got a mission and you've been planning it out, you can get into that house. I've seen the models. I've seen the 3D models where they're in and out, sometimes in like 5 minutes. So there's a couple of them.
Sometimes in 2.
Depending on the path that they take.
And I'm not being a smart ass for those of you that are just here to like hate and hunt me. Okay. It's in the documents. So.
But yeah, I mean, when you really watch a timer and you see the amount of time this person's been in the house, he had more than enough time, and then he got right back out. I mean,
to do all of the damage that we're hearing from Steve about Kaylee's facial injuries alone, and the fact that there were so many fractures and so much damage, and it would have taken her life just by itself, how are we supposed to believe that all of this was done in such a short amount of time with just the amount of time and the energy that it would have taken just for that? Just for that. Regardless of if we're going to sit here and believe that Ethan was asleep and it just took one whatever, okay, and Xana was the only other one that fought. Regardless of that, 2 to 4 minutes. All of that, 2 to 4 minutes. Not a trace. Nothing that even leads between the rooms on the stairs, according to what we're trying to figure out when it comes to why no one on that 911 call is talking about blood being anywhere. But the doors are open. Twilight Zone.
His door to the slider is the same technique that he used to the doors into the room. He just didn't want to touch anything. He went in there with the plan, studied. I mean, he spent years and years in these classes just reading and admiring, really, just admiring these other killers. And he was basically planning out to do his version of what they did and incorporate what they did and their mistakes and try to be that much better than them. So I think that's what you're going to see. You know.
So basically, because he was a good student and was doing his homework and following the curriculum that was laid out to him by his professors, he's obsessed and he's trying to be just like them and emulate everything that they did. You can say that then about every single expert that's going to get on the stand during the trial then, Steve. I mean, seriously, come on, bro.
He went in there, had a plan, did what he did, and then he bailed. And he bailed, and he had a shovel in the back car. I would assume that the shovel had something to do with wherever he went. He buried that thing and got rid.
What? What? That's like a normal situation, apparently, because of the snow, to have like a shovel. And it wasn't like a little bitty shovel. Like he tried to act like it was like this little bitty shovel. But then whenever he showed like the size of the shovel, it's like this. That's like a smaller shovel that I've seen people carry in their vehicles that live in like muddy areas and stuff like that too. So that's like a normal situation, apparently. A lot of the stuff that they do is apparently like not they, but the stuff that Bryan does when it comes to the shovel, the way the trash is handled at his parents' neighborhood. There's people just like in the comments on not just my videos and not just on YouTube, but all over the place that say this is normal. For this area, this is normal. This is normal behavior. Hey, I do that same exact thing. That's normal. I don't see why that's weird. I do the exact same thing. It's all really just like your own personal like perception, I guess, of whichever way you want to go.
Rid of that, maybe he had plastic on the seats. Maybe his trunk was lined with something, tosses it all in there, and he's gone. And the path that he took, there isn't even street lights. I mean, it's dark roads and nothing but fields, open farm fields that you could drive up.
And water, lots of lakes.
Lots of water too. So I don't think.
And I'll also say they don't have cameras showing that he was driving all these directions that they're trying to say that he was driving. And I get a lot of it, like what he just said, that a lot of the area that they're saying is like in the area that he was driving is like real rural or whatever. But they're only getting that based off of cell phone towers, which again, we've learned a lot about cell phone towers, that they will put you in a different direction just based on the tower traffic. It has really nothing to do with where you're going. It just depends on what it can attach to. And they can be 10 to 20, sometimes 25 mile radiuses, just depending on the strength of the tower. So they're going to have to do a whole lot better. We've had a lot of cases with a bunch of false pings that left to people like not getting found because the police had the information wrong because it was a false ping. We had it, I think, in the Caleb Harris case. It pinged him already across the field, but his like body was found in between the street where his apartment is and the street where that like there was like a clinic and a church or something like that. He was actually like in between there somewhere. And then right whenever I first started, right after Kylie Rodney's case, there was a Jolisa Fuentes case, and there was a false ping in her case that had her family looking in town thinking that she actually came back off the cliff, when in reality, she wasn't off the cliff. She actually went off the cliff, and that's how she died. But the family had a false ping reported to them, and the police hid that from the family for days and had the family looking in the wrong direction on purpose for days to try to cover the fact they gave them the wrong information. It was a whole thing. So I don't take pings too seriously. I'll just say that.
I think, once he got to that door, he was gone.
Do you think, again, if it's Bryan Kohberger, I have to say that because he's got his day in court, he's innocent until proven guilty. But if it's Bryan Kohberger, do you think he, or when do you think he chose his victims?
We wonder. Like I honestly, my personal thing is he probably did it in Pennsylvania when he gets the murder weapon. When he sends that to his house, he's made a commitment internally that that's what he's going to do, and that's where he's going. And I think.
Okay, she just asked, when did he pick his victims? And he's trying to say that since January, before he even moved there, he knew he was going to attack that house. He knew that he was going to attack those people. That's taking everything way too far for the circumstances. And there's already no proven connection. So if they could prove a connection, then I could understand him like plotting in the shadows to move to a school close by and do this crazy thing because of this crazy situation that ends up being uncovered. But there's no connection to these people at all. So I'm sorry, that doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't.
I think that there's murders out here, in this area of the Northwest that intrigued him, and some of them, the people were never caught. There's like a Lewis and Clark killer, got away with 5, even killed somebody from U of I, and then was never.
But when do you think he chose this house and these kids?
At least this time she redirected him. Most of the time she won't redirect. No one seems to want to redirect him. I'm glad she finally did.
With social media, you could have done it long before, but it really comes down to like how in tune he was with.
See, he doesn't have an answer. He just said it really just comes down to, or he could have done it before. So he's sitting here saying he did it whenever he bought the knife in January. But now he's saying, oh, it could have been, or it could have been this. You see how he doesn't know? He's coming out here putting all of this false information out here, trying to make it sound like all these things are being planned ahead of time, but he actually has no clue whatsoever. How is this just okay? I just don't understand it. And I get it. He's a grieving parent. Okay, cool. But how are you just okay after all this time coming out here and still just being so not honest? How are you just okay with being so not honest?
I personally think he was listening to 911 calls. I think he had an ability to listen to those calls, and he was just being a fly on the wall for a few weeks and figuring out what was going on, where the party's at, where were the girls at, what were things going on, where were the cool, popular kids at. And then he just started doing his thing and started doing a surveillance. And he started driving around like at least 23 different times. He was driving around a dead end road. You know, you can say he was shopping, but
No. For one, people argue that the stalking definition apparently is worded a certain way so that it's technically not stalking because whatever he was doing was technically labeled as surveillance. I'll say this. We went over the definitions, and surveillance is like included in the non-consensual contact and like all of the electronic media, because what are they trying to say? That he was like messaging them over and over and being ignored. That's what Steve has been trying to say for like ever. But that's not true. There's no proof of that, because what did they even say about the devices and about everything else? No connections. So I don't know why he keeps coming out here with this whenever they've already said the opposite. And on top of that, one huge red flag, I probably need to make like a small video about this and show the clips and have the document up and all the things like I normally do. But one of the big things that I have an issue with is the Moscow, not the Moscow, but the Moscow traffic stop. The state has already said 1,000 times that the only reason why it's even being submitted is for identification of who he is, his phone number, because that's what the search warrants are for the AT&T phone, his vehicle, make and model, and then his address for being, I think, at Steptoe Apartments or whatever. Like, that's it. Basic information they could have gotten from his regular old state ID or from the DMV. They don't need that for that, but, you know, whatever. They literally have to tell you what they are using it for. They have to give you the reason why they're using it, which is why they're saying it's for these identification purposes. It literally says in the statute, and I'm not going to pull it up. We did this in a video already. It says in the statute that it's used for planning, for basically they have to show that he was over there because he was actually stalking them, because he was surveilling them, because he was trying to plan something. It has to be part of his motivation. It has to be part of the motive. It has to be there for opportunity for something. And they can't say that it's for opportunity because they've removed pretty much everything when it comes to surveillance of that area and transaction records, when it comes to the stuff that they've tried to submit when it comes to him and all of the victims and even the roommates. And they've removed a lot of that. And it was all those stores right there in that one spot where the Buffalo Wild Wings is and the Ross and the Target and all those things. They removed like most of it. And there's nothing there that has them there at the same time, has them buying something at the same time. But Hitler then comes out in a damn order for, I don't even remember which order it was, which is why I'm going to have to do a video about it later, and says that the stop is being submitted to show that he was like planning it. Like it was part of him planning it to be over there. I don't exactly remember the verbiage that he used, but I remember it being a huge red flag and a huge issue because he now turned it into something that Kohberger was using to help him plan the crime, which is not what the state has said the entire time. So Hitler is now putting this additional definition on it whenever the state's already been like, no, that's not what we're doing. So this is it's like another example of the judge leading the prosecution, but we already know that he also leads both sides to lie. So that's already like a huge ass issue that he's putting a label on this traffic stop that the prosecuting agency is saying that's not what this is for. This is just to show that it's him and he has the car. That's it. And that it's his phone that we got the search warrants for. It's not to show any sort of motive or opportunity or planning or anything like that. So how is that allowed? How come no one's addressed that? Because they have it in documents like twice, I think, when it comes to the 404 evidence. And then they talked about it in court too. And then here comes the judge like adding this to it. That's not true at all. So that's some of that like false information that just keeps like it gets continued. But with that being said, they've already come out and said the stalking was false. When they then come out and they remove surveillance and transaction information for stores that they have information for both sides for, and they remove it because there's nothing that connects it, how can you still say that it's surveillance or stalking if they can't put him anywhere physically with a camera or anything else other than cell phone freaking pings at this point, apparently, that actually proves that? If Steve's already been able, had to come out and say he was wrong about his devices ever touching the Wi-Fi at King Road, which is in the Drunk Turkey interview. If he's already had to come out and say that, how are we supposed to believe any of this when we've already seen the facts showing the opposite? That's why this stuff is such a big problem. This is that publicity issue that comes to the media that could cause a problem in this case. I don't know if it's going to cause the biggest problem, but I honestly feel like trial might be pushed back because we already have like a couple different court dates and hearings coming up. And this last one was supposed to be the last one. Like it was supposed to be the last one. And now we have like June, one in July. There's probably going to be a couple in between. I don't know what's going to happen with this special prosecutor that just, came on for the gag order leak, but that's going to, possibly push the trial back. And then what? That's going to suck. That's going to suck.
But yeah, good luck trying to convince us all that you were out shopping it.
Have you heard any information that he was driving around any other homes? The number of times that he was driving around 1122 King Road? Like, have police ever said we've discovered other surveillance where he spent an inordinate amount of time around another house or another location?
No, they have said that he spent an enormous amount of time around that address. And I think maybe that's what they were trying to say when they said this was targeted.
No.
And I feel like those were weird words to use. It made it sound like the kids were involved in something that made them targeted and started a bunch of rumors. But I think it was targeted because they were doing that cast system and that dump let them know exactly how many people were in.
See how he just changed it? He went from being very specific about what the motivation would be for if it was someone in the house, if it was targeted or not. And now it's switching to physical information about what was done for the investigation. He never just answers it. It honestly drives me insane. I wonder if they're going to call him to the stand for anything. It'll be interesting to watch. If so, for some reason, I don't know for what, but I'm just saying.
In that area that really weren't supposed to be there. They could see normal traffic, normal like roommates and people that.
Okay. So he's saying that they can see all the abnormal traffic, but weren't we told that whenever they did that dump, they didn't see him on that traffic? So which is it, Steve? Because they did the tower dump and nothing on, for Bryan Kohberger was there. That's why they didn't have anything about him until after the feds gave them the name. See, that's just like what he just said is the absolute complete opposite of truth.
That were supposed to be in those apartments. And then they could start seeing, okay, this is somebody that's leaving, coming across the state line at a really unusual time. And they started, to process elimination.
No.
Who's in this area?
That's not how this happened, Steve. He knows that's not how this happened. He knows that's not how this happened. They literally had to go in and get a specific search warrant for Bryan Kohberger's phone just to get the times that they've even put into the PCA to begin with. When the tower dump happened for AT&T in November, nothing for Bryan Kohberger was on it. Every damn thing this man just said is a damn lie. Jeez.
During these late nights that might not belong here. And I think that's what they're going to show. And I think they're going to show an extensive, like sometimes minute by minute timeline where they know exactly where he was at and they correlate that with cell phone activity with the girls, what they were doing, where they were at. People, that cast system for all those girls has all been there. The only records that were missing were for the person who turned their phone off, which again, who turns their phone off at 3 a.m. in a college town?
Who turns their phone off at 3 a.m. in a college town? What kind of statement is that? And for one, it's never actually been validated and verified that his phone was turned off. People want to argue with that, and cool, argue with me all day long. Until the forensic download is shown in court, they haven't proven that. Everything that's come out is an assumption based on the experience of the investigators. Okay. What we've been told is that he went a direction that he lost service. And that's been sort of like proven, not just by like Twiz and people here, you know, on YouTube, but there's like liaisons for big media that go that way, that go and drive out to that park and have to come all the way back into Pullman before they can even report in what they've even been able to talk about and think about and get footage of, because there's no signal. Like, people that are reporting about how this is bullshit are literally experiencing it as it's happening and still saying that it's bullshit. That's absolutely wild to me.
Stargazing.
To go start, and then, like we said, where's your stargazing app? You know, if you're out there, you got this app.
This blew my mind. So you can't just like to go hiking and looking at the stars and enjoying nature and doing all these things unless you have apps on your phone that say so. So we're just going to forget the fact that people were like reading the stars to navigate since like the beginning of freaking time. We're going to just forget that there's college courses on how to tell what stars are where and which one's the North Star and how to do this. We're going to forget that people have brains. Maybe he doesn't need one. That being the reason why Bryan is guilty to him is astounding to me. He doesn't have a damn star app on his phone. You really just can't make up this kind of crap. You really just can't make it up. They say it's not Hollywood, but you can't make this shit up.
App that identifies these stars that you're staring at. Don't play us like fools. Don't just expect us to think you're just walking around clicking at the sky.
Well, that's what.
I can go outside and tell you where the Big Dipper is, where the Little Dipper is, where the Orion's Belt is. I know which one's the North Star, and I don't even like being outside, Steve. He's out of his mind. These little bitty things are all, this is what this is. It's all these weird little bitty things that Steve thinks is weird that he has gotten from bullshit sources, and he's just like putting everything together and just stacking it up into this just like thing that he's created that's not even real. It's not even real. He doesn't have a stargazing app. Therefore, his entire story is a lie. And he's a murderer.
When the reasonable nature of a juror comes in, right? Like, what's reasonable to you? Is that reasonable? You know, does that really sound like your gut feels good?
What? So it's not rational that I think that I don't need an app to enjoy being outside and to know where certain stars are if it's something that I'm passionate and that I love doing. Really? Tell that to like Beanie Baby collectors. Tell that to people who like collect, you know, cotton balls, lint things, and, you know, random just awkward things. Tell that to those people. This is what their entire opinion is based on. This kind of stupid shit. Thank you for the $2, Danny. Yeah, no mods. I don't do mods. If you act like an a-hole, then eventually I'll get rid of you. But we're all adults, and I'm already a mom to some kids, so I'm not about to sit here and hold all y'all's hands.
About that. And jurors are usually pretty good at that stuff. Let me go back to something you mentioned about, I think you said someone reached out to you who had taken one of Bryan Kohberger's Reddit questionnaires. Is that true?
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
Before we get started, let's keep in mind that this was not Bryan Kohberger's questionnaire. This was a group project that had multiple students' name on it, and it was either a TA or a professor, but it was Bryan, 2 other students, and then somebody of authority, and it was a group project that he wasn't even originally on. Somebody like asked him to get into the group from how the story was told.
We actually got a letter on that one, and then in the letter was a number to call. This individual said that they had been called, they got the Reddit, somebody called to survey them on crimes, and he was like, I felt like I was getting set up by the cops. So I was just like, I answered it kind of like over the top. He's like, I kind of embellished some stuff, kind of pulling the cop's leg, hung up. This guy called me back a couple days later, and we start talking again. And he goes, And I start feeling like this guy's like enjoying how I was describing how I was getting away with, like how I selected my victims. And he said, so I told him,
story.
I knew these neighborhoods that had a lot of money, and somebody might drink a little too much wine. Somebody might make a call to 911 over a noise complaint. Somebody goes to jail. And when that male went to jail, I'd go to that house, surveil it. And if it looked like there was somebody in that house that was passed out, I would go rob that house. And that's how he picked his his victims, I would say.
How the hell do you know if somebody's drinking wine or not? What? I'm sorry. Okay, I already know that whoever this person is, if this situation is even true, and let me just like whatever the hell is happening here. Okay. Steve is claiming that somebody that's already in prison was contacted by Bryan Kohberger, and the same survey questions that are on the Reddit survey that we've seen were asked basically over the phone. And this guy, thinking that he is being talked to by some sort of undercover cop, embellished this story, made it sound just completely just out of this realm. And a few days later, the same person called back asking more questions. So because he gave this, apparently Bryan, according to the story, allegedly Bryan, according to the story. So because he gave this guy this just like out of this world story, he's now saying that it's that guy's fault for calling back and asking more questions whenever he basically baited him to do so by not being honest to begin with. And then the story he's telling doesn't even make any sense. Like if you're faking a noise complaint to try to get like attention somewhere so you can break into a house, why would somebody randomly go to jail? Or how are you like surveilling houses to see who's drinking wine and getting into DV situations so that you can call the cops on situations that would then lead to somebody going to jail? Like, I'm sorry, but that story just doesn't really make a lot of sense. Everything that he just said is just odd. It's very strange. Yes, very specific. Somebody might drink a lot of wine, call 911 for a noise complaint, and then somebody goes to jail. How often does somebody go to jail for a random ass nothing of a noise complaint? The cops normally come and tell you to what? Turn it down. Everything's cool. Turn it down. Go on about your life. That whole story doesn't make sense. He's just like Howard Blum, whatever. Steve, stay away from the man. He's tainting you.
And he would rob them from jewelry, and I don't know what you do nowadays. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but maybe cash or something. But he would rob them. He said that Bryan seemed to enjoy his story, called him a couple of times. He said he was so odd about it that when this case came forward, he was like, I know exactly what this is about. I'm going to reach out, and maybe he's pulling my leg. There's been plenty of people who have sent us stuff that weren't accurate, but it always stuck with me. It already stuck. There's certain things that stick with you. That one was one of them, and there's other stuff.
That's just weird. That whole thing didn't make no sense. I'm sorry. I tried.
Other letters that we've given back to the prosecution and said, we don't even know what to do with this, and they've taken it. So
that was my next question. You shared that with prosecutors. They were interested to hear from these people.
Yeah, I don't know where it goes from there, but yeah, we've definitely given them the letters, and it's kind of like it just seems like it's a dead end. You never hear again. I was hoping I'd get my letter back.
But then again, like if it was part of the assignment to actually contact somebody in jail and try to get somebody to speak, they can prove that. They can prove that was part of the assignment, and to do a follow-up, probably part of the assignment.
But no, we never got.
If the story is even true, because we know that a lot of people behind bars try to fake and lie about a lot of stuff to try to get attention and leniency, and then it all ends up falling through in the end because the truth comes out in whatever. So you just never know.
Got anything back, and I've never seen anything like that in the list of evidence, so it probably turned out to be nothing.
I'm sure.
Interesting. How are you doing? I mean, we're 2.5 years. We're down the final stretch here, Steve. You're only a couple months away from jury selection.
He's like really shaking his leg. Like
it's
subtle.
New feeling to know that you're coming to the end of something that, it's been 2 years of your life, over 2 years of your life. And, try to think like, what should we do as a family? Should we go on a vacation? Should we do something? Like, how do you have a next day of your life when your life's been invested and so dedicated to one thing? It's not just me. I mean,
Yeah, I get it.
Kaylee's sisters are super dedicated, and everybody's worked on this case, and then like you can't let your mind go. So yeah, we're trying to figure out something.
And you know what's wild? And I really feel bad for her. It's the youngest daughter. She starts college like the second week of trial. So they're taking off, the parents, to go to bring her to college. So I guess that like Olivia, the grandmas, and the other siblings are going to be in court that week. Because the way that they talked about it on Chris McDonough's interview is that they were going to be gone like that whole week. That's going to be really difficult for her to be able to concentrate on the first freaking couple of weeks of college, knowing that this is the situation happening right now. That's rough. That's bad. That's rough.
But we have to start planning now that it sounds like some subpoenas went out. And
whoa, why did he start talking so fast?
I would think if they're going through that, the trial's going to happen when it's supposed to be happening. And
who got subpoenaed?
See, and that's not true either. See, he just said, because I don't know, it went on crack for a second there. I don't know why the hell it just spit up like that. But he's saying that he has a feeling that trial is going to be where trial is supposed to be because all these subpoenas and stuff already got sent out. But that's not true, because they had a whole bunch of subpoenas for the pretrial. We knew Enan Harsh had been subpoenaed by the defense for the pretrial. I mean, for the prelim, for the preliminary hearing. And then, all that stuff went bye-bye. So just because there's subpoenas right now doesn't mean anything. And this is also before the court's now addressing what the hell just happened with the leak. So we'll see if trial still starts on time. I want it to. I don't want this to continue. I really don't. People act like we just want this to continue on and on and on. No, we want to get to trial. We want the facts. We want the truth to come out so that all of this can stop. That's the goal here, for this to stop. So I hope it doesn't get pushed back. But I feel like there's not going to be like a choice. I don't feel like if they, okay, here's a question, because I don't know the answer to this. Can they go to trial without the answer for what happened with this leak? Put a yes or a no if you think they can or can't. I don't know the rule. I don't know how it works. Because like the information in the Delphi leak, the information for that came out. So can they still go to trial if they don't have an answer? Yes or no? Some people saying yes, some people say no. I don't know. I'd love to know, though. I need to know. Can they or can't they? Do they have to wait for the leak information before they can go to trial? See, some people yes, some people no. I don't know. I'm going to have to ask. I guess I can just call Idaho and be like, hey, I have a question, because it's not based on anything specific. I can just call and be like, hey, if there's a murder trial and there's a gag order and it's violated and it's before the trial, does that have to be solved before the trial starts? And I wonder if they'd answer my question. I don't see why it would hold it up, but I definitely feel like it'll probably get pushed back a little bit. I hope not, though.
I can't say who got subpoenaed, but
family members.
Some people got subpoenaed and basically told them they need to be available for court. So I think if that came out, then we're going to be sticking to the schedule that Hippler's put out, and that's what I really appreciate, because we've got a lot of money invested in where we're going to stay, and we were well informed by media that there was going to be a rush for houses that would be large enough for my family. And so we got that. So hopefully
you were informed by the media that there was going to be a rush? You mean the same ones who started the gas shortage a few years back whenever there wasn't a gas shortage, because they announced that there was one, and so people started panicking and they went out and caused it? You mean that media told you that? Wow. Okay.
We can show up and everything happens on schedule.
World is odd.
We're not jerked around anymore. But some people are trying to say that they need more time, even though they've taken more cases on, and they should have never done anything like that after they strung us all across the state of Idaho. And now,
but that subpoenas have gone.
I honestly I don't disagree with that sentiment, and I know that a lot of people are like, well, there's only so many DP qualified attorneys in Idaho, but I'm pretty sure that the better move to make in this situation was not to give Ann Taylor some escaped convict who either injured or killed a cop. Okay. The dude's guilty. He's going to get what he deserves, plain and simple. She's literally using the standing silent thing with him, which makes it less effective in the Kohberger case. And that was my first issue with her. That was my first issue with her. You do that with somebody who you truly think is innocent and that you want to reserve his rights. You want to protect him. I understand that. But we're looking at a guy with a whole bunch of scary ass tattoos all over his face that's caught on camera escaping in an orange jumpsuit that, was already headed where he was headed. And he just did some more to prove he belonged there in the first place. So for you to treat him the same way you're treating Kohberger, it's a bad look. So I don't disagree with this. Some people are going to disagree with me. That's fine. I think that they probably could have given that case to somebody else. I don't care how many of them there are. Not all of them are doing what she's doing or trying to do. So they probably could have done better with that.
I know that means that there are dates that they're looking more likely they're going to lock in.
Yep. And that's what I got looking forward to. So, maybe I shouldn't look forward to it, because once we go to court, who knows what that's going to look like. But
it's the end of the tunnel, and it's been a long, dark tunnel, that's for sure. And you deserve to be out of it. You all deserve to be out of it. But I agree. I don't know what the answer is. What's on the other side for you and your family? This has been you've had a new identity for the last 2.5 years. What will it be after?
Yeah, and I've told people before, but my wife and my daughter, Kaylee and Maddie, they all love that true crime stuff. And I always thought to my back of my head, like, I ain't gonna get caught watching any of that stuff, because that's somebody's real family. That's somebody's real dad, or somebody's real mom, or that's their wife, and lo and behold, it happens to me. So
one thing I will say at CrimeCon, I had a real,
like, he says that, but look how much he jumped right into it. Oh, I'm never gonna watch that stuff, bro. I'm never gonna watch that stuff. Now you're over here buddy with Drunk Turkey and JLR. Like, are you for real? You don't just watch it, like, you fuel it. You jump on their channels and you talk to them. You jump on the Discords and you talk to them. So how are you going to sit here and talk trash about it when you're literally entertaining it? It's just ugh.
Epiphany from John Benet's dad. And he said that he would avoid a lot of that for a long time. He thought it was so macabre, And then he realized when he was at CrimeCon, how many people loved him and how much support he had and how many people are dedicated to justice. Like the real true crime fanatics are in it
for the truth.
Not everybody, but a lot of them, a majority of them are in it for the justice. And that made him feel a lot better. He suddenly felt a sea of love that he didn't even know existed before. And that made me feel really good. I felt, for a guy who's been through what he's been through for 30 years, made me feel a lot better for him. But yeah, I'm sure you're in the club, right? You're in the club.
And I'm sure that guy had it even worse than most, because at least I got another guy that, is actually responsible. But, I get a ton of hate just because I'm vocal and I'm out here saying, hey, let's get him and let's go for him and let's get the evidence out and all this. So it brings up.
You're getting hate because you lie, Steve. You're getting hate because you come out here and parade Maddie around like a trophy while ignoring the fact you have another child and acting like we're supposed to just pretend like we don't know. While you're not helping that other woman's family get to the trial with the money that you got based off of their friendship, based off of Kaylee and Maddie's friendship story causing all of the broken hearts. You're forgetting that. You get hate because people see who you really are, Steve. That's why you get hate. Not as much as you want to act like you do, because you wouldn't have so many, thousands and thousands of dollars and thousands of followers if you were hated as much as you try to act like you are. But let's be for real. Be honest, Steve. For once, please.
A ton of hate my way. But that guy, I imagine he had a really, really tough go at it. So I feel for him.
You're getting a ton of hate?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Anybody who says they're going for, the guy who did it, there's always these people that think he didn't do it. So,
yeah,
they come after you because you're the source of some of the information. I mean, if I just go away.
You're the source of the lies. We literally caught him in how many lies in this interview? And how many times did he also admit he's not getting information from the people that have the information? All of those things are the most important things here.
Hey, maybe there's an easier path for him to, keep keep his name out of the press and keep people, they forget about it. And, there's witnesses out there. Maybe they forget about it and they don't realize, they move on with their lives and, we don't get justice.
Is he talking about how like Bethany's apparently engaged now and Dylan's off at another college partying like nothing ever happened? Like nothing literally ever happened? I'm sure that's what he's talking about.
What kind of things are they saying?
We get people taking pictures of our house, posting them online, threatening us. I've had to call the cops to come.
Okay, I'll say this. None of that shit's cute. I get a bunch of people that support them and hate me because I speak facts that do the exact same thing. I had one I posted in the comment section earlier that said I was hated and hunted. Well, Spyro and his friends are just ready anytime, so have fun with that. The hate that he gets, that he's talking about, that's media. That's like JLR level media, which is interesting considering that like they're buddy. So I highly doubt that it's him, but it's media. It's people that are just trying to like, just be all up in it. But all the threats and all the stupid shit, none of that's necessary. But for some reason, there's always these weirdos that always want to take it to that level, which I never really quite understand. That's why humans are so interesting to me, because most of the time they don't make any sense. They don't care about things they should care about, and then they over-exaggerate on shit that doesn't matter. It's honestly like the oddest shit ever.
Do surveillance around my house. Yeah, I mean, there's all. I don't even want to tell you all the things that's happened. We made a police report in Boise last time we were there because I don't want to give these crazy people any more ideas on how they can mess with us. And if I described what they did, I'd probably just given a couple of those weirdos more ways to come after us. But
see, not everybody that's asking questions are psychotic like that either. So, maybe they should try listening to people that aren't stalking psychos. But I know that they know who I am. They blocked me one time and then unblocked me not long afterwards. Just meant they had to go in and find my name, so they know who I am.
I think they relate a lot with Bryan, and deep down inside they see like a kinder.
That's honestly like an insult because of who he thinks Bryan is, but I'll just let that be.
Spirit, and there's some people that they have a vendetta against judges and judgment and cops, and
no, that's
so there's this. Maybe like 95% are here for all the right things. They want to see like an old-fashioned movie where it ends right. And then there's this 5% of people that...
How is he going to come out and say this isn't Hollywood, but then say that the only people that are here for the right reasons are here to watch it play out like a Hollywood old movie where the it all ends the right way and the bad guy goes to jail? That's like the opposite. I don't know. You know what? Just talk, Steve. Just talk. Just talk.
That are like... I'm not one of those cool kids that got killed. I'm a loser. I quit everything. I do drugs. I'm addicted. I've got all these problems, and I hate people. And you hear it. I mean, you look.
I don't like people like you. Look who you are. I'm just saying. Look who you are, Steve. Like, come on.
Literally hear that from these people that do these horrible mass murders and school shootings. You literally hear them say that. So. I think, and we know for a fact, one of them, that Georgia Gray kid, Georgia, the state where he did the school shooter, his last name was Gray. Colt Gray, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to even say these kids' names. I don't want to give them any.
Okay, but see, how is that? Okay, he's talking about a situation that happened where this teenager went and did something really stupid at a school. Did he actually do it, or did he get caught before he did it? I honestly don't remember. But this kid apparently like looked up a bunch of stuff about the Kohberger case, and like they're trying to say he idolized Kohberger and whatever. But how is that Bryan Kohberger's fault? Like, if he's actually innocent and he hasn't been convicted yet, and this kid is messed up in the head and idolizing all of these false statements that are being created about Bryan Kohberger right now, say that's the case. How is that Bryan's fault? How is that supposed to make him look more guilty? That this kid fell for the monster that was created by the media and not the truth. I don't understand how that works, but okay.
Platform, but it could be confusing. People always think, well, you're not being clear when you don't give this information out. But so this guy, he was a BK fan, and he made threats to our family. So
I didn't know that. That shit ain't cute.
Yeah.
The Georgia shooter, the school shooter, made threats to your family?
Yes, that's what we were told.
That's what so they never got these direct threats. They were just told that he made threats to the family. Okay. I'd have to see proof of that. I mean, I don't want to say that he's lying about every little thing, but I'd never heard that before. And he never got a direct threat, as he just said he was told that it happened. That's wild. Okay.
An open threat or a forum threat saying if the Goncalves don't shut their mouths, we should shut it for them.
Yeah, that kind of shit's not cute. That's not cute, literally at all. That's what I don't understand either about some of these guilters that come at me and say all this like stupid shit to me. They'll say stuff like they hope that my ex finds me and my kids and finishes the job. That's what they hope. That's what they hope. Whenever all I am doing is out here asking questions, going over motions and hearings and court information and documents. I don't say anything bad about the victims. I talk shit about Steve because he sucks as a human. Sorry, not sorry about it. But I don't come out here saying that people were doing all kind of crazy stuff. I'm trying to find the truth about stuff. So I understand this because that's uncalled for and stupid. I understand that he needs to not be out here doing all of this, but to stoop to that kind of level, then you're not proving a point. It's just like the people that come out here and they call people pro-burgers. So you had to create a term. You had to create an insult. Well, that just proves that you have no point. And I would love for one of them, just one, to come at me with some actual proof and some receipts for all the crap they say that I'm not being honest about when all I'm doing is repeating what's in the documents. I mean, reading is about as honest as it can possibly get.
And this is a guy who ends up going killing people.
Well, I know justice is coming your way, and there's nothing I can say that will ever make it feel better. I see it myself in the work that I do. There's this underbelly that has become so filthy and vile over the last 20 years. I don't know where they came from. I don't know why they exacerbated. I just know that they got a tool in the internet to help them be loud and vocal. And thank God it is a minority, because you don't deserve that. I'm really appreciative of this, Steve. Thanks so much.
Okay. And that's where I closed it off. See, I didn't change nothing. I literally downloaded the whole thing, flipped it around, threw my filter, my watermark on it, and then there we went off. Oh, thank you for the $19.99. I didn't even see that. We just want real truth, real justice, not just a patsy to make him and Coke Legend Happy and Barney and Andy and slap each other in the back. Terrible screw ups. Lots of screw ups. Lots of screw ups. Too many damn screw ups. I don't understand. Steve is not a stupid man. That's what makes me so upset. He's not an idiot. He's not a fool. That's why I'm just like, it's got to be some sort of desperation, or he literally is responsible for something that he's hiding. I mean, what other way around can you really think whenever it comes to the way that he's behaving? And I've never been any of the people that have ever tried to put him involved in anything. I find it odd, not physically anyway. I find it odd that they never told us about him going to the urgent care that day. Especially since Christy said that was the first time in their entire marriage that he'd ever even been sick. And it just so happens to be happening at around the exact same time all this shit's going on. That's like the one sketchy thing that I've always kind of been like, okay, maybe that's a little odd. But I know that there was like an ex-FBI agent or whatever that came out and really was looking at Steve for a while. Had a lot of questions about Steve. But I came out and defended him back then. Not anymore. Not anymore. Not happening. Oh, 3 hours. I figured it was going to be about that long. But you know what? If I would have like recorded myself watching it and then had to go in and edit it the way that I have to edit it, it would have taken me 8 probably altogether. If this would have been like a 3-hour long video, but I stopped and talked and blah, 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 whatever, but it's just easier this way. But I told you this was a wild interview. This is a wild interview. So many things he said were just like, huh? What? I don't even know what to think. Like, okay, I'm not trying to pick on this dude. I'm not saying things that are imaginary. I'm letting you see his words. I'm letting you hear it come out of his own mouth. None of this is okay. And I really wonder if something can be done for the fact that all of this happens to be exactly the crap that Dateline came out here to say, except everything's bullshit. Because I don't know. I don't know. All I know is that he did 4 interviews that regurgitated the exact same information each time. And then here came Dateline. Here came Dateline. It's just insane. Yeah. Right here. All of us wanted to give Steve the benefit of the doubt, but we have all been pulled into this sham of a case. Exactly. It's just too much. And again, I cannot unhear. You cannot unring the bell. I cannot unhear what Daniel told me about how Steve knows Dylan has been lying from the beginning. They knew from what Jack heard. She did hear and see whatever she claims to have heard and seen. She's claiming to have been awake on the phone to whoever she's talking to. So whenever Steve's asking her this, he's asking her this under the impression she's going to say something. She's going to have details. Instead, she says, I don't know. I didn't hear or see anything. I was asleep. Then the PCA came out and he had a verification that she lied to him. Never mind the fact that Jack had already told them what he had heard her say. Now here comes the PCA after the lie, and he's still out here protecting her. I don't understand that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. As a parent, I mean, shit, you don't even have to be a parent to have issues with that. I just want one thing. Just give me one. Give me one. I just don't know what to do. I don't know what to think. But that's why I've been acting like this the whole time. I cannot unknow that. This came from the man who interviewed with them that Christy had to come out and say, hey, no, it was real. It was real. It was me. He talked to me. I gave him all of this information. Everything he said, it came from me. You know, including the door that now they're trying to just skate around. That's why I've been like this, because I can't let that go. I can't just be like watching the way that he's behaving and then knowing the truth. Are you out of your mind? There's no way. No. It's just a lot. It's a lot. Murphy is with Jack. Yeah, Jack does have an Instagram. I mean, yeah, for the dog. Yeah, for Murphy. Which is cool. I mean, it's cute to see the dog, you know, trying to live his best life. I honestly don't think that Jack Decor is involved. I've never thought Jack was involved. He doesn't look like he's got it in him. Honestly. I just really wish they could give us some more concrete answers, because every little thing from like who was really where before the crime, before they got home, the times they got home. How are we 2.5 years into this and we're just now finding out that Xana and Ethan were not home after 2 a.m. And again, I know that her dad came out and said they were home around midnight, but everywhere that they were going to be going was in walking distance. They could have easily left that party at some point that Bethany saw them at between 8 and 9 per the PCA, went home around midnight after the argument, and then something brought them out afterwards. That 4chan post with the mini kill kits and the timing and the walking and the Banfield with the people and the timing. And I'm sorry, there's things out there that they actually have physical freaking evidence about that makes more sense than what the hell they're telling us happened here. And then you take all the circumstances with the university and the secrecy and we have to take over everything, even though this wasn't a sorority house, even though these girls were paying rent to somebody else and we had to get the house from this other person who actually owned it and it had nothing to do with the university whatsoever. We have to take over everything. And we not only have to take over everything, but then we have to also be at every press conference and make sure that we're front and center. And then we have to take down the house. And not just tear down the house. No, we have to make sure it does not exist. There's no fibers or vapors or molecules or anything left of this house. We've got to just make it completely vaporized. Why? I don't like any of it, but I'm going to go take a damn magnesium pill and make some lavender tea and try to calm down. See, this is why this case gets on my nerves. I just want to get to the truth. I don't want this case to keep going. I don't want to have to keep talking about this case not going to trial for another year. I don't want none of that. I want to get to trial. I want the truth. I want the truth to come out. I want the evidence shown so that we can actually see what's happening here. I could have been wrong this entire time. Cool. Not going to apologize for it because I've been following what's been in front of us and given to us as facts. But we need something more. And I want us to get there. I don't want this to continue. I don't care what anybody tries to say about how anybody feels about shit. I don't want to continue with this. As much as he sucks, he deserves answers too. They all do. So let's just hope that no more surprises happen. I doubt it. Wishful thinking, right? Okay, yeah, I need some lavender tea. I'm all riled the hell up. Okay, thank you so much for spending 3.5 hours with me on your Saturday night. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for actually caring about this case to spend that much time here. We had almost 1,300 people in here for a long, long time. That's a lot of truth seekers who care about what's true, what's fiction, and what's bullshit. And I love it. It's absolutely necessary that more of us actually pay attention, and not just to this case. Because if this kind of boo-boo shit is happening in this case, in Delphi, and just these couple of sprinklings of big high-profile cases, how much other crazy shit's happening that we don't know about? I don't even want to think about it. I don't even want to think about it. Thank you so much for the super stickers, the super chats, for all of the gifted memberships, for anybody that joined themselves. And again, just thank you so much for you guys being here. I'm going to go ahead and play my little out thingy-mabobber. Please do not forget to leave a like on your way out and subscribe to the channel if you are not subscribed already. Okay, now here's the last one. Y'all have a good night. See y'all.